Okay. Good morning. So, erstens, Mazel Tov to Rabbi Bachman. This is the Rabbi Bachman is the arranges this ganze Meise. It should be Shnas Hatzlacha Begashmis Beruchnis and alle Inyanim. B'teva Nirva Nigle should Isfir in the Shlichus, and personally, communally, in every way. B'teich Menuchas HaNefesh V'Rechavas Hadas.
Amen.
We're going to be focusing today on the Maimer Bosi Tosha Chavov. So, what we want to do is come over within the confines of the time that we have. First of all, to get the main thrust. Where's this Maimer going? What's the message of the Maimer? Then to see these various stops, the different teiros of the Rabbeim that the Rebbe brings and incorporates in this message. So to try and understand where we're going with all of this, what each of the teiros of the Rabbeim are adding, and why they're all necessary. And then hopefully some takeaway. Like what's the Rebbe demanding from us? Or what's the Rebbe expecting? Or maybe in other words, what's he giving us? What's the Eitzer over here that we're being given? So, Behektim, as we know, every year, we've been doing this already for a few years. Every year, the Eitzer is a little bit different. Was heißt? In the original Maimer of Tavshin Yud, so Kumuvan, the 20 Parakim are all a build-up, or certainly the second half of the Maimer, of the Hemshech, the last 10 Parakim, is all coming to explain what's the Eitzer, how are we empowering a Yid to go and do the Aveda, Vikst Meshiche, Machen, Adira B'Tachtein. So every Perek is just, as you would read a normal Maimer or Hemshech, is one is leading into the other to get to the punchline. But the way the Rebbe has it, the Bosi Legani, is every Perek became a world on its own. And just like Bichlal, what Chassidus does to Torah, it could take out what seemingly is a Maimer Chazal out of context and take a line and say, let's learn this line as it stands on its own. And it gets its own light and its own message. So, Kumuven, this is a Yesod of Chassidus, that every Vart of Torah is not, it can't be just as a Himtzoi or Agdama to something else. Every Vart of Torah has its own weight and its own message. So, likewise over here, this is what the Rebbe is doing to Chassidus itself. We have every Perek of Bosi Legani has a life of its own. Therefore, what happens in every Bosi Legani is that the Eitzer is somewhat different. There's always a new slant in what exactly is this treasure, this ammunition which we're being given to fight the battle, to win the war. So today's Eitzer is going to be unique. It's the Eitzer of Tavshin Chavav, which by Pashtus, the Rebbe is expecting that we learn the Inyanim, the Perek Tezayin this year. Hopefully, we'll even be zeicher to a new Maimer, a Maimer of Tavshin Peivav. But certainly, we're expected to learn the Tavshin Chavav and the Tavshin Memvav. So this is unique keiches for this year. How to learn the Tavshin the Perek Tezayin itself? Now, the difference usually is very often is that in Tavshin Memvav, the Rebbe would speak more the Inyan and sometimes go entirely, so to speak, like an independent Torah. Like there's a famous Vart that Rashbat said after 20 years of the Rebbe Rashab, that after 20 years, so you're Mecher B'Nichse Yaviv. So to speak, you become independent. So, and this was a Vart that was after 20 years, and then the Frierdiker Rebbe also spoke the same Maimer, the same Teichem, the Inyan of Chai Be'etzem, which is independence, also after 20 years, and also Bosi Legani Tavshin Lamed was after 20 years. The Rebbe mentioned this idea of Chai Be'etzem in the Maimer. So there is sometimes an idea that we say that Bosi Leganis of the Mems, of the Lameds of the Mems, there's an independent message, so to speak. In the Yuds and the Chavs, the Bosi Legani is closer to the text. It's more learning a depth and pshat in the Perek itself. And that's going to be the style of our Maimer. Kumuven, this comes with a big pekel. There's a lot of work over here. Because you have to first learn the Pashat Pshat in the Tavshin Yud. Then you have to learn the Teiros of the Rabbeim as they are independently. Then there is how the Rebbe learns these Teiros of the Rabbeim. Then how the Rebbe brings them together and creates a new tapestry, a new message, and then how this is all learned in Pshat, and the Rebbe Mamish goes in the Chavs, it's Pashat in Pshat ala Seder in the Maimer itself in Bosi. So there's a lot of work, which we're going to try and akoponim, let's call it a skira, a kind of synopsis of the general themes, the Yosefis over here, which we want to do today. Okay. Before we jump in, any comments or concerns? All right, we're good. So I guess the easiest way to do this, just for clarity, is let's first clarify what is the nakuda of the Maimer, and just to run through it by from Klali. I believe a lot of Chevra already went through the Maimer at least once, just to see what I've seen what's going on. So just to get the message straight or the goal, and once we know where we're going, it's going to be easier to drive to go through the various steps. In the Moshel of the Melech, the Eitzer, the most important feature of the Eitzer is the fact that it's hidden. It's concealed. And as it's explained, always by Arichis in the Maimer, the concealment is not just technical, it's hidden for security reasons. It's hidden be'etzem. There are some things which are not for public consumption. Certainly, we're not going to spend these eitzris on the day-to-day needs for the Medina, even if there's going to be stagnation, there's going to be sometimes a need to go into the coffers of the king, but that's a different kind of eitzir. Those are the reserves. Over here, we're talking about the royal jewels, the royal treasure, which is not ever to be used for any reason. Sometimes you have things which are not for sale, and what we call priceless, literally priceless because it's not for sale, so that you can't put a price on this. However, but they are used to impress. So Lamoshel, you have King Achashverosh brought out all of his royal kalim to show off, and that itself has its own utility because it intimidates, it puts everybody in their place, it makes everyone understand that who His Majesty is. So even we say the royal crown or the Even Shebekeser HaMelech, as much as we consider it priceless and it's never going to be used, but it could be shown. And that is the purpose of the crown. When the king wears the crown, this is you walking into the throne room. There's something powerful over here. There is, however, a unique treasure which is not even to be shown, not even in a way that it's priceless. In fact, it's sometimes said that even the king himself doesn't go there. It's so deep. This is hidden. Me'en kolere. What's the purpose of this? So why does he have it if there's no utility in it? So the answer is that some things are not here for any ulterior purpose, for any reason at all. This is the melucha itself. This is the Yerusha. How do we have a physical thing in the world which could, so to speak, encapsulate the kingdom or the fact that I am the Melech? In what way? So what we consider today, let's say there's the flag, or there's something we could hold on to and say, this is the country. Likewise, the king has his treasures. This is what he was Yerush Me'avesov, and whoever gets these treasures in Denver state that he has the royal jewels. He is the king. So obviously, this is not something which I could ever use for anything else. Anything I'm going to be using is for this. Even if I'm going to show off the royal crown, it's all going to be in order for the melucha, which is embodied in these royal treasures, for it to be safe. Al derech zeh, let's translate this in Nefesh Adam. We have parts of ourselves which the way they work, they function is, they want to communicate with our sviva. That's our seichel, our midas. There's a deeper part of ourselves, which is usually hidden, but sometimes it could come out. It's as if to say, I'm sharing a deeper part of myself. Now, when I say it's a secret, it doesn't mean that other people don't know it. But even once I shared it, I've shared my secret. Yeah, as we see, when people say over a secret, they whisper, even if there's nobody else in the room, because it's uncomfortable. What we're doing over here is we are discussing something which is private. There is information which maybe nobody knows, but it's not private. I don't care if anybody knows it. It's not. It just happens to be nobody knows. Nobody knows why I ate for breakfast today. That means that it's not a secret. There is information which maybe everybody knows, but they know my private information. That is what's uncomfortable about a breach of privacy. That it's gone public. Then there are such things which are so deep that nobody could know. Even I myself don't go to that place. It's like the very essence. It's about me. It's not. It doesn't mean that it's hidden. Technically, I don't allow others in. I don't even allow myself in. It's hidden be'etzem, or like the lashon of the Maimer is, it's sasum be'etzem. This is what we would call the stim in the kol stim. It's hidden beyond all of the hidden things. There are things which are hidden technically. There are things which are hidden more than just technically because they are deeper in me. But they are royal galis. They could come out sometimes. Sometimes there is some utility in being megala, my deepest wish, my deepest desires. Over here, we're talking about something far deeper. It's me. And that is something which cannot be touched. Now, when the king wants to win the battle, and as it's explained in the Mamorim, there is a point where the battle is.
Why won't the person go there? Mm-hmm. What is it about it that the person won't go there?
Because then he's violated. This is me. It's
but the
too
person
sacred.
Himself, I'm going to my space.
But if I'm being megaled to myself, I've made myself not sacred. If I'm going to put myself into my own words, if I'm going to be gazing at myself in that way, then I've violated myself. It's not just about an audience, about anyone else. It's me. There's something deeper in me. And I don't want to touch that place. As soon as I touch it, I'm going to corrupt it. There's going to be words. There's going to be language. There's going to be I'm going to take it in some way. No, this is me. It's like far too deep for that. Now, because the Melech has to win the war, and this is a war of survival, and a war for a king, every war is survival, as it's explained in the Mamorim, because being a king means that he doesn't have anybody who disobeys. So anybody who's standing in its way, it's really the survival of the concept of being a king. He could be a governor and not win a war. You could be a mayor and not win the war. You could be a manager. But a king means that he is boss. So every war is really a war of survival. Because allowing for a chutzpah, for one person to not obey, or there's a space which doesn't allow me in, that's against the fact that I'm a king. Memela, it's because it's a war of survival, the king will splurge and spend his deepest eitzros. And as it's explained in the Mamorim, this is originally actually a morsel from the Mittler Rebbe. Over there he says, Barichis, how he wastes it all. In other words, it's not just the pshatis, he's going to take this sacred, secret, deepest concealed secret and take it and give it in a very curated, protected way as the ammunition, the final atom bomb to win the war. No, he's going to take it and spend it on the soldiers' needs. They should have what to eat. They should have where to sleep. More than that, he's going to give it into the hands of the soldiers, which means that they're going to spend it themselves. It's not even that the generals are going to have control. They're going to take it and they'll spend it carefully and responsibly. No, it's given to the generals, pass out the cash to the soldiers, and they are going to go and spend it as they see fit. A reckless thing to do, obviously, because you're wasting it. There's going to be waste along the way. But they should spend it and just splurge a bit to win the war. That's how this has come out. And sometimes, even says in the Mamorim, if I'm not mistaken, in this year in Tavshin Mem Vav, there was such a word that this shift from being so hidden to this splurging is self-understood. In other words, it's a mimanavshach. It's not going to be ever in a way that, you know what, let's do it gradually. Let's discover it a little bit and allow some people to use it. No, it's a mimanavshach. It's either be'etzem hidden, or if it's survival, so it's all out. Memela, that is the Gilui of the Etzem of the Eibishter, the Oitzres, which is giving to Yidden in order to win the war. Which Kamoven, just already at this point, there's a very powerful takeaway over here that the Oitzres, as it's explained often, is Chassidus, and in our Maimer, actually, the Rebbe doesn't spell it out clearly, but in the next Maimer, in Beshalach, Tavshe Chavav, the Rebbe clearly says that the Oitzres is Chassidus. So Chassidus is given to us. It's not even in a way, it's the Rebbe says it, and then, okay, we're supposed to only Chazah the Maimer and use Oisiyas Harav. That's the only way to take it. If you're not learning Oisiyas Harav, then you're not loyal to the text, then you can't learn it. But the idea is, take it, and it should become yours. That's the message. How does it become yours? In Chassidus, it means that, first of all, understand it on your own, use it in your own language. Everyone has their Aveda. It's a nem and Chassidus Beifim Pnimi. And it should become, and we know the risk. There's a major risk over here. There's going to be a waste. Once Chassidus goes into the hands of irresponsible people, i.e. us, who knows what it's going to look like. But it's all worth it. It's all worth it to win the war. Now, what we're looking for in the Eitzer is this characteristic of the fact that it's hidden. So we want to look in the Eibishter, what does it mean that the Eibishter has a part of himself which is hidden, concealed be'etzem, and this is what he's going to go and share. What is that? So in previous years, we looked at it in one way, and now in Tavshin Chavav, we're going to find a unique methodology, or a unique language, how we're going to. So, in short, let's just in mamish be mekatzer what we've done in previous years, just to be able to appreciate the chiddush of Tavshin Chavav. In previous years, it begins in the Maimer in Sif Yud Beis. We bring the Maimer Azayar that the Eibishter is Lamayla din Ketz Lamata din Tachlis, which the Pashtus is a very surprising statement. If the Eibishter is Bligvul, so he's Bligvul. Putting it into Lamayla and Lamata itself is a limitation, and L'chaira only devalues the statement. So what does it mean that Eibishter is Lamayla din Ketz Lamata din Tachlis? So one way of saying it is like this. Lamata din Tachlis is that the Eibishter is not just Bligvul, but his Bligvulness reaches beyond himself. So he comes also to a place of Lamata. So the fact that the Eibishter is Pashut and Ein Sof is ad kidei kach that he could share himself with the lowest of places within the world, even Lamata Mata din Tachlis. Not only could he share himself, he could share himself in a way that he retains his Ein Sofness. So the Ein Sof of the Eibishter is found within the Bri. And this is, as it's described at length in the Mamorim, is a very powerful message. If a Yid looks around and he sees in the Bria, look at the heaven and you see that the Nivraim, which are Nitzchim, the sun is Nitzchi. Now it doesn't make sense for a Davar Mugbul to have a Nitzchi quality. What's Pshat that is Nitzchi? It must be that there's something over here which is pouring itself into the Bria. The Eibush is sharing himself. He's sharing his Nitzchis. Ad kidei kach, we don't even need to look at the heavens. We could look at ourselves. We could see every human has the power of Ein Sof. Every person, how many deiros could come out of him? Ad Ein Sof. So I could have children, and my children could have children. Which is the power of Ein Sof. That's the power of creation. Now, just this thought of understanding that I, as a finite being, I'm here for only a specific amount of time. So we're talking over here, I am a finite being. I'm here, I'm transient. The Imkol said there's something in me which is totally beyond my gather. I possess within myself something eliki. Ein Sof, over here we see how the Eibishter has not only shared himself with the Bria, he shared his Ein Sof with the Bria. And I am here, I'm present, and you could find me. So this is, Kumuven, much a much bigger statement than just saying Ein Sof. The Eibishter is not just Ein Sof. The Eibishter comes into the Bria as Ein Sof. So just like if I would say, you have a Rav, and the Rav is a Goyin Adar. There's nothing that he doesn't understand. But it would be a far greater compliment to say, not only is he Bli Gvul, he could explain himself to everyone, even to the most simple Talmud. But over here, we're saying more than that. Not only to the most simple Talmud. If we would say that this Rav could explain himself to a stone, what would that mean? How could he take it? So that is because the Rav is so Bli Gvul that he's limitless. I could reach everywhere. That you can't say there's a place which I can't reach. How am I going to share myself? No, I'm going to give a compromised version, an iota of my seichel. I'm going to give the full Ein Sof to that tachten, to that stone. That's the Pella. Now, just to be clear, the Pashtus in Tafshin Yud, this is not the Eitzer. This is just a Hakdama. We begin with the Lamata Adin Tachlis in order to explain the Lamayla Adin Ketz. We begin with Gilui in order to explain the Helm. As the Rebbe says in the Maimon Tafshin Chavav, and this year, first we explain the Amplekte, the Goli, in order to discuss the Bahaltane to get to the Nister. However, there were years, if anyone remembers in the past, I believe in Tafshin Chav Beis, there was such a word, that this itself is the Eitzer. Because there certainly is a treasure over here, just knowing how you see the Ein Sof in the Bri. However, the Iker Eitzer, and this is the Pashtus, is the Bahaltan. And that's the story of the Bahaltan. That's the story in the Moshel. What does that mean? So over here, we have to say something deeper. You have this union of Gilui, and then you have a different quality, the koyach to be mailam on yourself. And by Pashtus, if you have a person who could walk into a room and he is a genius and he is a tzaddik, the imkos that nobody knows, it's a far deeper expression of his koyach, because I'm not limited to being begoli. I don't have to come in a certain seer. I have full control. I could even retreat. It's the power of concealment. So it's a deeper place in myself. The pashtus, you could say on a parent that he's so dedicated to his child, so I could reach my child in every place, and as low as the child will be, I will be with him, and the full me will be with the child. So that's a full expression of the gil of the Bli Gvul of the love of a parent to a child. But then there's a different quality which needs to come out, the power to conceal myself. If you say that a parent has to punish a child and withhold the love, we all know this. It's much harder to be strict because it's reaching into a place of withholding. That's taking back the gili of myself. That is coming from a place where I am not mugdir be'inyan agil. And this idea is, where does that come from? Because the etzem, I myself am not begolim. Therefore, I have this power to retreat. Now, over here, things have to become more subtle. Because over here, we're going to want to discuss the difference between the way things are in Tafshin Chav Hei and the way things are in Tafshin Chav Vav. Tafshin Chav Hei, we spoke about the concealment. We spoke about the Eitzer of the Lamayla Adin Kates, the way the Eibishter is returning to himself, pulling back. However, what we meant to say over there was that since the Etzem is Behelem, so also in the expression of the Eibishter, this Helem will be apparent. In other words, there will be an expression of this Etzem in the Gili of him. Why? Because he's Be'etzem Behelem. So let's just use this in more simple language. We used last year this mashal, so it'll be an easier framing. If you have a shliach who wants to share his mishalech, one ofen of the shliach sharing the mishalech is, I'm bringing the mishalech to every place. So, kamoven, I'm bringing the full truth and the full import of the mishalech, and if the mishalech is so powerful that he could share himself through me, and it's a herzachon, kamoven, not just a certain vart, a kasha and a teret, no, the Ein Sof, let's say the emunah and the Bli Gvul and the Mesiras Nefesh, and the power of what the Meshaleach is, that's going to come into the Makam HaShlichus, and I could share that. That's Lamata Adin Tachlis. However, what is, if the Shliach wants to share, that the Meshaleach himself is not limited to all of these Giluyim. As we know the Klal, the Moir is not limited to Mashem Nimtza Mimenu Eir. That's not the Moir. The Moir is, he's an Atzmi. And likewise, there's a certain frustration that the Shliach feels when he says that people say, oh, I hear this Bligvul, I hear the Emunah, I hear the Mesiris, I hear the Ein Sof in the Sikha that you're chazering, I got it. I got the Rebbe. No, you didn't. The Rebbe is far beyond that. It's not limited to this. V'haraya, the Shliach himself, he didn't limit himself to learning Lukdei Sikhs and seeing the Ein Sof over there, because Eda Faran zum Rebbe. Why? Because there's something about just being him, being there. It's the way there is no Gidui. So what does the Shliach do? He packs his bags and he goes. He Eda Faran zum Rebbe. He has to go to a place where there's the Etzem not limited to Gidui, not confined to expression. Now, the Pashtus, you would say, so the Shliach is not doing his job, he's left his Shlichus. In a way, however, we could argue that Dafkin now he is doing his Shlichus. Why? Because now he's giving over the message to his Mukoravim that the Meshalech is totally beyond even this limitation of being revealed. Because everybody's going to ask the question, why are you going? What are you lacking? What do you mean? I have to go because it's beyond Gil. It's being there. That message, even though the only way I'm delivering it is by escaping the shlichus, and l'chayra, it looks like I'm neglecting it. In fact, what I'm doing over here is I am sharing the message of that the etzem is higher than Gilui. And al derech zeh we say in the language of Chassidus that when the Eir is in an Eifen of Aliyah to the Moir, that there's the retreat of the Eir, going back to its Makar. He's not leaving the job of what Eir is supposed to be doing, being Megala the Moir. In fact, he is being Megala now the full Moir. He's saying that Moir is beyond Gilui. And that's exactly where I'm running to. I want to go back to that place where it's Bein Arich. It's far beyond me. Anything that I could express. Now, this is, in short, the story of Bosi Legani Tovshei Chofei. How the etzem, the idea of concealment, which is the etzem concealed, is murgish in the air. In our Maimer, we want to say something more than that. That the air itself possesses the quality of Hester, not only as an inyan of becoming ois air. The Rebbe begins the Maimer with the Lashon. Now we want to show that there are two madreges in the air v'er is. That's the Lashon, the way the Rebbe said it. K'moshehu. Was heißt? Till now we're talking about the way the air is going to express itself in our world. That's Lamata Din Tachlis. Or the way the air is going to leave being air and going to be Eila Lahamoir. And that itself is bringing out the Lamayla Din Ketz. Now we want to say the air as air has this quality of Lamayla Din Ketz. Now, the idea of Sasum is not by air becoming ois air, v'er is nit, nor wie the air is, as air. Now, what do we gain from that? So first of all, let's see important wording that Rebbe says in the Zeksav Yad, that Rebbe wrote for himself before he said the Maimer. And Rebbe used these words to explain what he wants to say. To just his own notes. Actually, during the Maimer, the Rebbe didn't use this word, but it was put into the Hanoch of the Maimer because once we found the Ksav Yad, so it was incorporated in the Maimer, that it's b'mokem echad. What we mean to say is, in the same place of Er being Gilui, in that very place, Er also has the inyan of Sasu. It's two madreges in one place. Let's, in order to understand the nafkemina between Chafei and Chavav, what's this unique formula that we're saying over here today? The easiest way is, Pasha, to go to the bottom line. What's the nafkemina l'pay? The nafkemina The Rebbe said this in the next Maimer, in Vayelech. What we want to discuss, what kind of Eitzer do we want to discuss now? We want to talk about the Eitzer which could be given. There's a part of the mashal which emphasizes how much the Eitzer is hidden. But the second stage in the mashal is that this Eitzer is going to be given to the Makabel. Now, being hidden, retreating, is that something which we could package and deliver to a Makabel? So, what are we giving over here? We're not giving anything. However, if we say that it's not the becoming ois, if we're saying that it's as now what does mean? Means expression. Means that it's b'metzias. It's something which we could take and grasp and have and appreciate and experience. If in experience we're going to be able to locate through this unique formula, we're going to be able to find the idea of sasum in the then we're going to be able to grab it. We're going to be able to hold it. We're going to be able to have it and give it. And once we could give it, so if it could be given, it could be taken. So the nafkamina is going to be that now this oitzer in Tavshin Chavav is going to be something which is going to become part of ourselves. The Rebbe finishes off in the Maimer, in the second paragraph of it's Sif Ches. The Rebbe says over there, what's the point? What's going to come out now? That it's going to become Inyon Shel HaMakabel, because it's going to be delivered in this unique way, in a way of as a part of so it's something which is deliverable, therefore it's something which I could take. And this is what we're looking for in this Eitzer. So it's not the becoming Ois like last year, because of Yecheles Atzmus, because of Atzmus, therefore I appreciate that I am not it, and it's all about him. No, I possess the inyan of Sasum, so it's an inyan in Giluyim, so something which could be given, and could be accepted, and could be taken and used. Let's bring that out, Pashat B'Pashtus, in the Nafkamina in Aveda. For remember, last year, the message was, Ochenata Kil Mistater. The fact that the Eibishter has this tchuna of Hester, because the Eibishter has Hester, so therefore you will find Hester within the Bri. So what's going to be the maskana? The maskana is going to be that a Yid is going to wake up in the morning and he has challenges, and he has hell of Hester on another course, and he could see Klippe, which is Li Yeriv Ani Asisini, and he could see he has Tzoros. So you should know that really, it's really the Eibishter himself. It's not only don't be nispal from these Hester. You should know that it's the Eibishter Bems. Really, the Hester is kavyochel inyan in the Eibishter, because it's coming from this inyan of Aliyah, of Helem in the air. Ad kedei kach, the Achsidish Yid, whenever he sees inyan of Hester, he's going to say, Ochin atakel mistater. Take, this is the Eibishter who's being mistater over here. That's what he's going to find in the inyan of Hester. However, let's ask a simple question. In what way is this empowering me in my Aved? I need to go and make a dira b'tachtein. We have to take the shtus de klippe, shtus de lumazeh, and turn it over to shtus de kedusha. We're going to work. We're going to fight the battle. What ammunition have I been given? I've been given an important message. Don't be nispal from the stumbling blocks. Okay, but what ammunition do I have? What do I have? You haven't given me anything. You haven't given me anything, and there's nothing I could take. So, was hab ich? Masha'enkin in our Maimer, we're going to be saying, no, there's something, the inyan of Sasum is deliverable. How? In a even of a mashal and a sipur, there's going to be this unique formula that we have in our Maimer, how this works. So Memele, it's something I could give to you. Or Memele, you're going to be able to walk away with it. In Pashat Verter, it's Chassidus. Last year, he didn't tie choice that it's Chassidus, because it's not, maybe Chassidus teaches this. But what is it? It's just Hester. It's just knowing that the Eibishter, the concept of Hester is the Eibishter. Okay, it's a knowledge. It's Shlila. It's a very important message, but you can't say it's an empowering. It's not inspiring me or propelling me to work. What? You haven't given me anything. Over here, you have given me something. You've given me an inyan of Chassidus. Take in a sasumdik way, take in a moshel, but I have it. I have it, I could take it, and I could use it in my life to do the Aveda of the Rebbe Tachtein. And that's what we're looking for over here. The way Sasum is an inyan in the air. Okay. So far, this makes sense? Doesn't Iskabel B'Teif?
Why is, if it's also Sasum, why is the mashal, why is it able to come into a mashal?
Okay, good. So when we'll get there, right? Very good. I mean, this the Ravayla always saying is words. You're right. There's no asbarim. We're just putting the arrow where we're going. What's the direction? That's the nukud.
Also, in the first couple of issues, in the Fig Rebbe's Maimer, and the first couple of issues of the Rebbe's Maimer, there's a use the mashal of the mashpia. You know, to be masbid in Lamala Adin Saf, or Adin Kits, and over there it's masbid that it is. I'm assuming what you like the way you're teaching it is the mashpia here, the iron safe, is the shliach, not the ebishter, not the ma'ir,
right?
But it's right the mashpia. But then it's saying that this is something as mashma both from the Rebbe's Maimer and the Rebbe's Maimer, that this is a sasum, that it's so sasum that the mashpia is not even aware. And then on the other hand, it pivots and it says that the mashpia handles it with us and makes Indian of a mashal.
100%.
So it's like. Is he aware? Is he not aware? Is he?
You're touching mamish on the schwerigkeiten over here in the Maimer. This is it's lechayre. You're touching guys Rabbi Reichik's question. This is mamish the problem over here to understand what is the formula. In other words, in simple words, what you're asking is memonashach. Is it sasum or is it golem? How could you share something which is sasum? Meaning last year, the reason why in Tafshan Chav Hey we came to this maskana. If you want to discuss Sasum, it's going to come in a Sasum Dekwen. It's Sasum. I cannot deliver. It can't be shared. It can't be packaged. So over here, this is exactly what the depth of this mashal of the Frierdiker Rebbe is, and that's what the whole Maimer over here is trying to unpack. How does this taka work?
But I would add to that, it's not only from certain parts of the mashal, it's mashma that it's not even that the mashpia is aware of it, just doesn't have a way to package it.
Right,
it's not even aware.
100%. Yeah, it's taka sasum. It's sasum be'etzem. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Right. Okay, so Mr. Shem, we have our work cut out. Okay. So what we're going to want to do is, I mean, there's many parts of the Maimer over here, and each one is a build-up to try to get to this Nakuda, to explain what this word of Sasu. So I guess we're not going to be able to run down every rabbit hole, and especially even though it's you say these things, but there's a whole thing of Yecheles and Eir over here. We're not going to be able to go into everything, but Akopanim to get the framework of the Maimer where we're going. So the first statement the Rebbe says is this inyan of the two madregas which there are in the air, the Gili and the Helam, is not Yecheles. And it says this like very strongly. And then on Shabbos, Rebbe continued, Ba'arichis, why it's not Yecheles? We can't say it's Yecheles. What's bothering the Rebbe? Like, who said it's Yecheles? Who you attacking? What's the Havamina? What you being there? Who mentioned Yecheles Mandachar Shmei? So the answer is Bepashtus, as Tane Meheche Solik. It's coming Behemshich to Tavshin Chav Hei. In Tavshin Chav Hei, he said a statement that what is the inyan of Sasum? It comes from the Yecholte Shalei Lahoyer of Atzmus. Atzmus has the quality of Yecheles, Yecholte Lahoyer and Yecholte Shalei Lahoyer. Therefore, that inyan is reflected in the air. And this is exactly what the Rebbe, first of all, wants to get out of the way. We're not going the same way as last year. Last year, it was about the way the Etzem is influencing the Eir. Now we're saying is that the Eir itself possesses this inyan. And that's what Pashtus, why we are being shoyled so much the inyan Ayichelis. It's not Tavshan Chaveh, it's Tavshan Chavav. It's in the Eir itself. Immediately, the Rebbe asks, how could you have two Madregas in Eir? So he says, Eir is a horrible vat. That's the Alter Rebbe. So this is just coming to settle. How does it work that you have the inyan of Sosum in Eir? Then we bring the Mittler Rebbe. What's the message, what we want to use to get out of the Mittler Rebbe? We want to glean one idea. It says that this stimu dechol stimin. Now, stimu dechol stimin means that sometimes you have stimin, which is a relative sasum, like it's sasum for me because I don't understand it, or even if it's sasum legamre, I will never be able to understand it. But it's an idea which is begolian in its own world. Over here, we're talking about stimu, even relative to chol stimin. It's sasum be'etzem. So much so that this lashon is used for the moyer itself. But pashtus, we say antu chad v'lo b'chushban. The Eibush himself, atzmos, is chad, and therefore he's stimu the chol stimin. However, there's a second taich in the Mittler Rebbe that this inyan of stimu the chol stimin is in the eira, not in the moyer. And this is exactly what we want to hear. That you could have this very stimu the chol stimin, which a moment ago we said about atzmos, that you could find also in the eira. So the second pirush of the Mittler Rebbe, after we learn the first pirush, that it's talking about the way it is in Moed, now we see it in the air. So this is the best mocker for what we want to say in our Maimer, that the idea of stimu is an inyan in the air, it's an inyan in Giluyim itself. Now, how does this work? Where do we see it? So here we're going to start the mashal the way it is Barichas in Perek Zayin, which was mentioned by Rabbi Reichik, and we'll get into Bipratius the details. Now, there's two stages in the mashal. There is, first of all, describing at length how much this is sasum, and then there is that despite it being sasum, im kol zeh, we have this unique way of delivering it through a mashal. So, what it says is like this. You have a Talmud who's sitting in front of his Rav, and the Talmud is understanding what the Rav is saying. So, he's a Kli. That is what we would call Pnimi. Then you have that the Talmud is not understanding what the Rav is saying, but he understands that he doesn't understand. He gets it. Now, even though this obviously is something which he never took, but if years later, if after 40 years, suddenly he chaps, what does he chap? He doesn't return to the Rav to learn from him again. He chaps what he learned then. So apparently he always had it in the recesses of his mind. He had it in some way because he grasped what he always had. That's the pshat chapping after 40 years. So in a way he did have it. Now it's not just we have a raya that he always had it. He could also feel in a way that he has it, because if you'll ask him, even before the 40 years are up, this idea, how does it sit with you? He will say, I don't understand it, but it's a mufladik idea. I appreciate that there's something very deep over here, which is beyond me. So in a way, he even experiences it. And that's what we call the Makif HaKarav. Then there is an even deeper idea called Makif HaRachik. It's so beyond me, it's bichlal not in my world. That is the Makif, the way it is, mitzad, the Rav himself has it. Even after 40 years, I will never be able to reach it. The mashal continues. This inyan is not just that it's the Ravs and not the Talmuds. Even by the Rav himself, it's also an eifin of sasum. And this is what Rabbi Gazinski was saying before. It's sasum be'etzem, meaning that the Rav has ideas within himself which he cannot share. He can't even share to himself. As we were saying before, Benegir the Eitzer, it's be'etzem sasum. And it's this idea that the Rav wants to give over to the Talmud, something which he himself is, so to speak, not aware of, or he can't experience. How is that done? Obviously, the Rav can't come and give a shir. Side the Talmud is not a keli, and if we'll be honest, the Rav is also not a keli. He can't put it into words even for himself. The solution is a mashal v'sipur. Say a story, and that's going to be a new medium through which I'm going to be able to give over to the Talmud this idea of sasum. This is the vart of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So over here, let's slow down. With the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe, we skimmed over. But over here, I think it is kedai to slow down and to see how the Rebbe unpacks this idea. And even in this stage, there's a very powerful message over here in the mind. But before we do that, let's just make it clear where we're holding. There's going to be two stages. First of all, understanding what the sasum is, how sasum is, and he calls that makif harachik, and he uses also the language makif der chayzer. And then there is the technique, which is the mashal, through which I will be able to deliver it. So, the first part. What does it mean, this inyan that it's sasum be'etzem? So, we use two lashonos, makif harachik and makif der chayzer. Now, what's interesting over here is the Maimah of the Frierdiker Rebbe, Tafresh Pei Gimel, the Tafshin Yud was said in Tafresh Pei Gimel. This Maimah is Meyusad on Tafresh Pei. It's really originally a Maimah from the Rebbe Rashab. Over there, the Rebbe Rashab uses the Lashon Makiv Der Chayzer. He doesn't use the Lashon Makiv Arachik. The Frierdiker Rebbe comes and adds the words Makiv Arachik. In fact, if you listen to the tape, the way the Rebbe chazes the Maimah, so the Rebbe says Makiv Der Chayzer, and then he says, wie teitscht das up? Who's the Frierdiker Rebbe teitscht das up, which Bepashtus means in Tafshin Yud, or in Pei Gimel, he explains the Maimer of Tafresh Pei, he adds the words, Makif Arachik. So, first of all, we have to understand what's the difference. Why did the Frierdiker Rebbe add this word of Makif Arachik? What are we gaining from it? And then we have to understand why, in our Maimer, the Rebbe is going to elaborate specifically on this inyan of Makif Arachik. What's he gaining from it? For our general theme, the idea of the sasam, the way it is in the air. So let's just do this in stages. First of all, bichlal, the difference between makiv hakarev, makiv harachik, and makiv der yasher and makiv der chayzer. These are two different concepts. And then we'll see how the Rebbe zooms in on the idea of makiv harachik to bring out his point. What's the idea of makiv der yasher and makiv der chayzer? Boivin klali, we know that there is the peches pnimim of the nefesh, and then there's the makif of nefesh. If we're going to talk in the language of the senses, so there's re'iyah and shmiyah, and there's re'iyah. Re'iyah and shmiyah are things which touch me in a very deep way. We know tainug is in re'iyah, and you can have tainug in shmiyah, hearing a beautiful nigun. However, they are specific. When I look at something, I am connecting with something in a very visceral way, but there's a specific thing that I've seen. Likewise, there's a specific something audio which I've taken. Mash'enkin re'ach. Re'ach just has this power to encompass. It surrounds me. There's nowhere I could point where here is the re'ach. I smell it. And it touches me in a far deeper way, in a makiftika way, in my nefesh, more than re'iyah and shmiyah. In simple words, ask somebody to write down what he saw, what he heard, he could write it down. Write down the smell. There's no way to explain it. It's an atmosphere. It's makif. So just like what the re'ach is a makif thing, it surrounds me, likewise is the pu'ula on me, it just picks me up to a certain place of bligvul. There's no kalim for it. You know, you walk into a building and you smell that smell, in a moment, you're like transported 20 years ago. Oh, this is that smell. It's just that like atmosphere, that the makif, it picks me up, it's that place. It's like, oh, that smells of home. It's so powerful because it touches me in the bligvul of the nefesh. That's why when a person is feeling weak, so smelling salts picks him up. That's the makif. And as we know, the makif, you know, perfumes just create a different, it's so much more enticing than anything visual or audio, because it just pulls the nefesh. This is why it says Benegea Karbonis is reich nicheach laHashem. So it's that when you have a reach, so it touches the Eibshter Kavyochel in the place of makif, of bligvul. But this is all called makif der yosher, which means the way the makif, the bligvul of the nefesh, is expressed and experienced. As we know, the nefesh itself is not makif, is not gili of bligvul. The nefesh itself is I, or as what we call this sosum. It's the way I am in a place which I don't even visit myself. It's just the very I. Usually we say it's impossible for a person to access that place. If a person is in a great sakana, so he's berech min amavis, so the fright brings out the etzem. Or if it could be a shock, a simcha, something great which triggers a gilia etzem. But pastors, there's no way for me to wake up in the morning and to touch that place of etzem. Says Chassidus, in the language of Kabbalah, there's something called makif de'er cheser. Makif de'er cheser means this makif, but it's reaching deeper. It's going up. It's not just er yashar, a gilui, so to speak, of spreading. It's the way this makif works is it digs deeper, it goes back. It retreats into the nefesh, and it cuts through everything, and it touches the etzem nefesh. This is, sometimes it's explained, this is like if you have a smell, but a sharp smell. That's something which makes me jump back. Just like it says, benegei, taste. You can have a sweet taste, which is an expression of gishmak of the nefesh, and then you have a sharp taste, like it says in Perek Chav Zayin in Tanya, lahoshiv nefesh is dafka through dvarim chamutzim. That kick, that it touches me, brings out me. That's the makif derech cheser. So, in short, what's the idea of makif derech cheser? That it's possible for a yid, a person, to touch his etzem. You think it's inaccessible, it is accessible. There's a makif derech cheser. Now, what's the idea of makif, hakar of makif arachik? It's the opposite idea. Makif means, as we were saying before, there are things which I understand, there are things which I don't, which is makif on me, and then there's things which are totally beyond. It's rachik. So what does makif mean? Even though it's rachik, im kol zeh it's makif. As we're going to see a mashal of a bias, that you have something which is beyond you, but still has some kind of influence. It influences me in the eifin of makif. So the idea of makif harachik is coming to say the opposite message. Makif derech cheser is coming to say that you could access the etzem. Even though you're a person of keiches hagluyim, you could retreat and go back to the etzem. Makif harachik means that even though the etzem is distant, it could influence, it could be nizgale on the keiches hagluyim. So it's not me going into the etzem, it's the etzem coming to me. Now, we're going to soon see the full Havana of the Makif HaRachik and this idea of bias. But first, what's the Vart over here? Why does the Frierdiker Rebbe bring it? How does it change? How does it help in the Hasbara of the story of the Eitzer? So the answer is simple. How could you give over something which is Makif Derech Cheser? If it's Taka Makif Derech Cheser, or like we saw in the Moshel, this Rav is going deeper and deeper, retreating within himself to a place of that he doesn't understand that he understands. He's like so far lost within this truth of his seichel, so it's not something which you could deliver. How are you going to give that over? The answer is because even before you gave it over, it was rochek, but it was still makif. It did have some kind of yachas, and therefore it was something which I'm going to be able to give over. So now we see over here how important this is for the message of the Ma'im Tashar Chavav. What was the Vart of Tashar Chavav? That it's not the way the air becomes ois air. So the air v'yeri, in the air, it should be like he said, we're not talking about Yecheles, we're talking about air. It's begeder nesina. It's something which I could give over. Therefore, I have to say that this makif, this idea, even before I gave it, how we're going to give it is through the mashal. That's in our mind, that's Sifhei. But even in Sif Dalet, what's going to be the Vart over here? It does have a yachas. There's an idea of a yachas to me, even though it's beyond me. And that's what we want to take away from this Vart. So kommt aus, that the Rebbe is not just stam stellen sich on this lashon of the Frierdiker Rebbe kocht sich in sein Rebbe's Torah, which itself is pashul. What did the Frierdiker Rebbe add? The Frierdiker Rebbe added hasbara. What's the hasbara? The message of our Maimer, that you could only give over something which be'etzem is giverable. It's deliverable. It's a had lechatchila, one only makif derech cheser, it was makif harachik. And that's what the Rebbe is going to come now and explain in the Tzemach Tzedek, and the second word from the Tzemach Tzedek, the Rebbe Marash is going to unpack this inyan. What does it mean that it's makif harachik? Good. Is this clear where we're going? There wasn't a word of asbara, just the cheshbon of where we're going with the idea of makif harachik. So good? Okay. So, how do we do this? So we work in a few stages. First of all, we have to demonstrate that the idea of makif means that you do have a shaykhs. This the Rebbe brings from the Tzemach Tzedek, that Rotzen, as we know, is makif. Rotzen is the merutzas hanefesh, the expression of the way the nefesh is just rushing and going and doesn't have any specific kli. As we know, Rotzen doesn't have a keli in the guf. Which part of the guf is the kli for Rotzen? The Rotzen is everywhere because it's me. Therefore, we know the Rotzen influences the whole nefesh. Every part of the nefesh, every facet, every faculty is going to work only if I have a Rotzen. In simple language, if I'm not in the mood, then my seichel, my midas, nothing's going to function. It's going to be hollowed out. If I am in the mood, if my rotzen is begoli, then adam leimed b'makom sheli b'chafetz. Likewise, midas certainly, and even maise. It's not going to be a lethargic, empty, dry maise. It's going to be with a rush, with a chayis of the nefesh. If there's a rotzen over there, the extreme of not having rotzen, it says in Chassidus, is called machlas amanye. What we call in English mono. That's and the sickness of mono is that there's no solution for it. There's no formula, no refuah. Why? Because be'etzem, all that happened is that the rotzen retreated. It's basically saying I'm not in the mood in a very extreme way. The chayes hanefesh is just hasn't come out, so you just have to wait for it to come. Over here we see that rotzen, even though it's makif, influences the Eivarim. And this is the message. What we want to say over here is that where is the sasun? This idea of Erchezer, it's in the place of makif harochik. Even though it's makif harochik, im kol zeh has the inyan of sasun. But it does have epsayachas. It's an inyan in eir. It's something which does have a yachas. Umiva haraya, you see that rotzen, despite it being so high, does have a yachas. But that's all makif bichlal. What we want to discuss over here is specifically makif harachik. What's makif harachik? So over here we bring the idea of mazen levush and bais. So, bekitzer, we know that a person has, generally speaking, let's start with it, has two needs. A person needs sustenance. He needs to have fuel. He needs to live. So he has to eat. And he needs protection. Protection from the elements, from the cold, from the heat, from the sun. And the truth is every animal needs the same things. He needs to eat and he needs to be protected. That another animal shouldn't eat him. These are the two needs of mazen and levush. Now, the pashtus, in Chassidus, we always talk about the ma'ila of mazen. Mazen becomes pnimi, nasidam Bosi kipsare. It becomes me. Levush is in yechitzaini. Levush tachlifim v'yachleifim. However, in this landmark maimer of the Alter Rebbe, which is actually, interestingly enough, the first maimer that the Alter Rebbe said when he came out from jail, Yutas Kislev, and he said that now he's going to be Chassidus noch Peterburg, and he's going to explain Chassidus ba'asbara. So then the Alter Rebbe came and said this maimer, Mazen Levush and Bayis, Mizmor Shir. It's printed in it's the last maimer in Likutei Torah. Over there, the Alter Rebbe explains that levush has a mila over mazen. So he explains it in Pashat Begashmis. You see, we spend more money on levushim. Levushim last longer. We see that levush, we need more specific levushim. And when it comes to mazen, a person could technically eat paschareva his whole life. But to have specific levush, you need. In the winter, you need the levushim for the winter, in the summer for the summer. So we see that we're more invested in our levushim than in our mazen. Why is this? Because the levush is what he called is makif hakarif. It's makif. It's higher than. Let's explain this in later Chassidus. It came out more ba'asbara, and you have the maimer of the Marash over here, which is brought in our maimer, and there's the famous Padub Shalom Ranat over there. It's explained by Archava, and the Rebbe has it a few times. Begashmi is a levush is bigger than the person. Mazen is smaller. Mazen goes into the person. The levush is bigger. Let's talk in nefesh. What's the levush do to the nefesh adam? Mazen is anything which I take in. So it doesn't mean dafka, physical food. It could mean any nourishment. So we're talking about spiritual nourishment, seichel, midas, anything which I take, I possess, I process, and it becomes part of me. Then there is Not something which is becoming part of me, but it's what I'm becoming part of. And that's what Lavush is. Lavush picks me up. It's not something which I devour. And I now contain within myself this Inyan. Sefakert. I belong to something else. What does Lavush do? We see b'metzias that when a person has a Lavush, he feels bigger. It's like picked me up. I identify with something greater. That's why in every army in the world, there's a uniform. Why is it so important? Because if you don't have a uniform, then you don't belong. The uniform makes me, even the police force or any job or position that they make you wear a uniform is because they want you to to be connected with a uniform idea, to bring people together to something bigger than themselves. I now represent the police force. I'm coming in the name of something bigger. And it makes a pull on the nefesh. You see, as soon as a person wears something, so now he fits into that role. So I become bigger. We know the sakana, like the Rebbe spoke about children dressing up as Haman, even for a game, because a levush, it picks me up. It has that influence on me. It brings out the makif of my nefesh. As we know, Rabbi Yochanan Kara Lamana Mechabdusa, this is my covet. What's pshat covet? Covet is something far deeper than taiva. Taiva is I have a urge for something specific. Covet is it's me. It's bigger. That's why Begashmi is the levush is bigger than the person. In Taivas Alavushim, it's also explained. The Taivas Mozen and the Taivas Alavushim are very different. Taivas Mozen, okay, so you need a diet. It's hard to control yourself, but it's Sach Hakel, a need to eat. Tell a person to start dressing differently. It's like you're touching me, who I am. This is the way I present myself to myself and to the world. You're not asking me to be mevater on a prat. Like today, I'm not going to enjoy the meal. It's me. That's what Lavush does. And therefore, it's so much bigger than me. However, Zogt Chassidus, this is all Makif HaKarif, V'haraya. First of all, Begashmis, the Lavushim are fitted, Lefi Erech the person. So even though it's bigger than the person, but it's fitted. It's around me. Also, the different nafkaminas that the Alter Rebbe said, that how much money we spend, and how long it lasts, and how much it's needed. These are, you see in bias even more than Lavush. Bias, a person can't live a moment without a bias. Let's just explain that. Mozen, of course, a person will die if he doesn't have mozen. But if I ate today, so now 3 hours later, I don't, or an hour later, I don't need to eat. I'm not hungry. So mozen is, there's times I need to eat. Lavush, I wear the lavush the whole time. However, soft, a person undresses, he bathes. You don't need to, b'chol rega, if I don't have my lavush, mamish berega zeh, I don't become a be'etzem, a person who doesn't have lavush. It's not true. I still have this identity. These are my clothes. They're hanging on the closet. But this is, just look, there's my cap, there's my jacket. This is who I am. The bias, you need to have b'chol rega. A moment a person doesn't have a bias, he becomes homeless. What's the word of a bias? A bias is far more than just a place technically to put my head down. A person who has a home is he belongs. He taka has an identity. Levush is you're creating an identity. I want to identify with something bigger than me. It's picking me up. But it's not me, be'etzem. Bias is taka me. And that nakud of having a home, I don't need to be in the home now, but having the home is who I am. You stop a person on the street and the first question is, who are you? Where do you belong? What's your address? I need to, if he can't answer that question, if he doesn't have an address, say he has a serious problem in his identity. He's a lost person. A person who has that anchor of having a home is a mensch. That's why we see that every time you ask a person in shul, what are you doing? Yeah, I came to learn. In the store, I came to shop. In the office, I came to work. What are you doing at home? What do you mean? There is a place in the world where I don't need to answer that question. This is where I belong. The need to have that is Tiferes Adam. That's the etzem of the person which is brought out. You see that people fight for the homeland, ad kedei mesiras nefesh, they mafkir their life, because it's not a cheshbon, a svara like for my children, my grandchildren. It's the home. It's I. It touches me in a deeper place, even than levush. The Rebbe says over here in this Maimer, actually, a new Hagdara, which, if I'm not mistaken, is mamish a chidush of the Rebbe. It doesn't say it anyway. The only other place I found it is in Tafsha Chaf Aleph, Vayakel Chaf Aleph. So I don't think it says it in other places. And the Rebbe brings out in the sharpest way. Bichlal, it's a good dogma how the Rebbe skips through all the various biurim, but says one Hagdara where it encapsulates it the best way. It says like this: you could have two people who are opposites, min hakotza al hakotza, and they both have the same home. How is that? Because apparently it's nothing to do with my tzir. It's not my keiches. It's not even higher than my keiches. Levushim, everyone wants to bring out their personality, their character in a different way. Everyone dresses differently. Why? Because sof, it's about the expression of me. It's higher than me. I want to identify with something, but it has epithets, makif hakorev. It has a yachas. It has a certain tzir. Masha'enkin, the I of the person doesn't have a tzir. The etzem of me and the etzem of him are taka identical. They're just me. And therefore, we could both have the same home. We could both answer the question, where do we live? We could give the same address. How are you talking? How could you say such a thing? What kind of home is it? It's not a house which is for certain purposes to bring out, to give me something. It's home. It's belonging. We could, me and a totally different person to me, we could both have the same homeland. It's the I. In Tafshin Yud, the Rebbe said an interesting word. He says that Daimim doesn't have any needs. Semeach needs Moslem. Chai needs Lavush. And only a Adam needs boys. Tiferes Adam Hashem is boys. What does it mean that a Chai needs Lavush? Nachher verkehrt, kam Zipper Motza, Kain law, yeah, the Motza bias, you see that also a bird needs a home. But the pshat is, what the Rebbe is saying is that it's not a bias. It's like levush. Why do they need it? They need it for protection. They just need to be protected from the elements. So it's what they're looking for, what the tzipper, the animal needs, is just a place to be safe from the sun, from the rain, from the snow. It's not that I need to belong. Take me and relocate me. I could be relocated. I don't have this tiferes, this atzmistic thing in me that this is who I am. And that's what bias does. Okay. Adkan is just to bring out what the vort of bias is. Zok the Rebbe, this is what's negate our maimer, that this is the idea of makiv arochik. So till now we're saying that there's something called sosum higher than any gdorim, the makiv der chayzer, to return to the etzem. So you think, okay, if so, it doesn't have any yachas with me. Came the Friedrich Rebbe and said, no, I want to demonstrate from bias the idea of makiv harochik. It does have a shaykhis to you. It's an inyan in the air. It's sosum take, but it's sosum in the air. And bias brings out perfectly. On the one hand, it's sosum. On the other hand, could you say that it doesn't influence me? Could you say that it's not felt in me, this inyan? Of course it is. In an atzmistic way, you're right. So you could see that it's an inyan in the air. It's not only in moir. It's something which could be experienced. That's mamish what we want to bring out over here. The word that it's shneim b'makom echad, in the air alein, in the air we sees. All right. Do we go weiter?
One second. So with this marshal of house, we're saying that the Indian of Sasam Ba'etzem is not a bug, it's a feature, or in other words, it's less that it's a I'm sorry that it's noisy in the background, but it's less that it's not something it's because of a deficiency. It's behelem, either by the mashpeh or whatever it is. It's it's fakert. It's so essential that it's not part of their active consciousness.
100%. Yes, yes. The Sostom is bringing out how it's an atzmistic thing. It's me. Therefore, it can't be extinct. The emes is that's mamish in the oitzer. Yeah, the fact that the king, his oitzeres are not accessible and are not visible is not a chisaron. It's fakert. This brings out how deep they are. This is what they are. So, like you say, it's a feature. It's not.
It's identical. I use this much. I wasn't sure of the exact. The crown jewels of let's say of England, because they're not. It's not mevaz. It's not spendable because it's the etzem of it. It personifies the etzem of the maluka.
Right. Right. Yep. So the shlav over here that we're holding in the Maimer is that we want to bring out fakert, that even though it's be'etzem hazeh, it's an inyan in the eir. It's something which does have an influence, and that's what bias helps us do. Now in Aveda, we bring this is a beautiful shtickle over here from the Tzemach Tzedek, the way the Rebbe touches up in Aveda. It's just of this is allein of Avrengen. Just this is a Maimer for. The Tzemach Tzedek says this in the Mizmer Shir in Haggadah, but he's mitzayin to a Maimer Tzana Oreno and Shir Hashirim and L'Kutei Torah, and over there it's more Bahasbara. What's the idea of Nase and Nishma? So we're used to understanding that Nase is Kabbalah Sel and Nishma is understanding. Zog the Tzemach Tzedek, no. There's two levels in Kabbalah Sel. Nishma is Kabbalah Sel and Nase is even higher Kabbalah Sel. So in the Sprach over here is there's the way the Eibishter comes to us in Eifen Pnimi, and that would be Moslem. Then there's the way the Eibishter comes to us in Eifen Makif, and that's I take him in Eifen Kabbalah Sel, but that's Nishma. Then there's the Makif Arochik, so to speak, the Eibishter himself. That I take it only in the Eifen of Nas. What's the difference? There is learning Torah by pashtus, like if you learn in Perikei and Tanya, I learn and I understand and I process, I take it, and Nasa Dam Basakib, sorry. Yichud Nifla. Then there's a deeper opinion that if you understand that Torah is not me, Torah is the Eibishter. And when I learn Torah, really what I'm saying is that Eibishter is learning Torah. And what am I doing? I'm learning with the Eibishter. And this is a Meridik Vort, it says in Chassidus, that really I'm answering the Eibishter. So every time I read the Eibishter is saying, and that's the title. It says, listen to what you're saying. Because what's being said over here, in other words, all you're doing is listening. It says, the Eibishter. And you're reading with him. And that's the title limit of Torah. Kabbalah Satira has to be in a way that it's the Eibishter is standing over here in front of me, and it's Takech Chadoshim Mamish. He is standing and saying, and ich zog mit him. So that's bittul. The whole inyan of limud Torah is just to be mevatel myself. Listen to what you're saying. Hashmila aslach. Zogt the Tzemach Tzedek. This is nishma. That's the aveda of bittul. Kommt the Tzemach Tzedek, and really it's in the L'Kutei Torah in Tzana Oreno, says that's not enough bittul. If you want to get the Eibishter himself, then you have to leave even the boundaries of being batel. Being in a mode of being mevatel yourself and only repeating Pashat being that itself you're also in the way. Why? Because the very fact that you are the one which is being mevatel yourself, so maybe your bittul is pure, but who asked you for your bittul? Your bittul is in the way. You yourself are stepping in the way of allowing for the Eibishter to shine. The only way the Eibishter could shine is if you're not even going to be bottled. The only way is Nase. What's the touch Nase? Nase is Poshet Damaise. Tuvas Mezakter. Don't even be bottled. And that's true bittul. If we'll say it a little deeper, there's in the famous Maimer Marglet Tavshin Mem, over there the Rebbe's Magdirit from Milmaila Lamata. Mitzad the Eibishter. There's nothing which is a kli to take the Eibishter. Obviously, Beira Nivra or Bein Arech. So if I come with my Avon of Asaga or my Ave, even Ave Lamaila Mitan Das Rus the Liba, there's no way to take it. What happens? So what's the only way to do it? Just put yourself aside. Kabbalah said, the Shlile, don't get in the way. Be mevatel yourself, then you be a Kli for the Eibishter. Zok no, the Eibishter cannot be taken in any inyan. There's no way, there's no correct way for taking the Eibishter. There's no, like, in an Eifon of Chiyuv and an Eifon of Shlile. Bittel is also not a Kli for the Eibishter. The only way you could take the Eibishter is not your Yeshus, not your Bittel. Do what he says. What did he say to do? Shake lulav, shake a lulav. That's it. Take the lulav. That's all. Don't, nothing else. That's a Taichnasa. Not even be bottled. And obviously that is the true Bittel. So if we're looking to understand how Makif HaRochik could express itself, how could it come and be Nizgala over here in the Tachten? L'chayre it's in ganzen Rochik. So we bring the mashal from Bayis, and then we say, let me show you how it works. Biyachas to the Eibishter, that the Eibishter, the way he is Makif, the Eibishter himself could be Nizgala if it's an Eivon of Nasa. So there could be an influence of the Makif on you. Bring the Rebbe two dugmois. These are beautiful examples. Where do you see this? L'chayre, it's impossible. If you could tell me not to have any kavana or any love or any inyan, but to do without Kabbalah Zel, I mean, it's impossible. How could that be done? So the Rebbe says there's an example where this is brought out in the mitzvah of Shikha. Now, we bring this example not to say that only a mitzvah of Shikha is like that. Since you see that in Shikha is Azeh, so Ibazeh, you're going to understand that all of Torah mitzvah should be performed in this way. Theoretically, it's possible to do this. Shikha, as we know, the Alter Rebbe brings the Tisefte, the story of a Maaseh B'chosid Echad, that one day he forgot a bunch of wheat, or whatever it's called, a bundle, in the field. And his son told him, so he told his son, so send a par for Eila, for Shlamim, thank the Eibishter for this chus, for this mitzvah. Because it was Zeichet, the mitzvah of Shikha. So said the son to the father, what do you mean? There's always mitzvahs. Every day we're Mekayim mitzvahs. With simcha of mitzvah zu, what's so special? So he said, Pashat, this is a mitzvah which I could never have done myself. It's a mitzvah which only the Eibishter could do for me. The Eibishter, better said, could do with me. The Eibishter makes me forget, and then it happens to me. So Shikha, by definition, is that we're telling the Yid, forget your Yeshus, or your Ave, or your Havon of Asage. Forget even your Bittel. Being mevatel yourself will also get in the way. Just allow it to happen. That is the idea of the way a Yid should be performing a mitzvah. In other words, that's the only thing that's happening. The second example the Rebbe gives, and this is phenomenal, in a Maimer, for a Yud Shvat Maimer, is the Inyan HaNesiyas. What's the Nesiyas? It says, so the kovid escapes him. However, if you berech min kovid, then you will have kovid. So it's the story which is brought from Shimon ben Shotach that he ran away to Mitzrayim. They wanted to make him nasi. He ran away to Mitzrayim, and then they chased him and they made him nasi because even though he ran away, and they brought him back, and Azeh is a Gvar nasi. So that's the story of the only way you could become nasi is if you're berech min kovid. Now, Kamuvn, the berech min kovid doesn't mean technically somebody who's running away from attention, from kovid. I don't know, like however we call kovid today. What's kovid? Kovid in Chassidus language means makif. I'll call kovid chuppah. Kovid is the gili of the truth. Now, you could have a yid who's running after the truth. How do you run after the truth? Through being mevatel yourself. You're saying there is havon of asog of elikus, and then there is I don't understand the Eibishter. I'm running after the Eibishter himself. That's called reidef achar kovid. I'm running after the Eibishter the way he is in Eifon of Makif. Zok the Alter Rebbe, you're getting in the way of yourself. You're tripping over yourself. If you're running after it, so already your bittul is in the way of being mekabel emes. The only way is that you have to escape even the inyan of bittul. You're running away from being mevatel yourself. And then it just happens to you. That's the word of Nesius. There is an important ha'ara from the Rebbe it's in Nosei Chilik Lamed Gimel. I think it's the first Sikha, maybe I don't have it in front of me, maybe ha'ara 40. Over there, the Rebbe says a tifer havana in that. What's a Nasi? What's unique about the idea of a Nasi? A Nasi is someone that he doesn't have any other inyan besides for the Eibishter. It's the Eibishter being melech through him. If a Nasi wants to become a Nasi, so meaning he wants to be bottled to the Eibishter, it's a Shein Eis Nasi. So it's built in to the way a Nasi has to become a Nasi that he has to not want it. Because then, only then do you have this Bi Melachim Yimleichu. So Kumuvin, just to make clear, it's not like a stage. First you have to be Berech Min HaKavod, and then you'll get it. The Berech Min HaKavod it's in a perpetual state of not being even in a tnua of wanting, of bittul. That is the matzav, the way a Nasi lives. That I don't want anything. I don't want the Eibishter, I don't want to be bottled to the Eibishter, I don't garnished. And the Eibishter shines through him. That is the Bi Melachim Yimleichu of what a Nasi is. So this over here, we have two examples of how Makif Harachik could influence a person, weiter, bringing out this point that even though it's Sasum, Im Kol Zeh, it's Eir. It's the way Sasum is in the Eir. Now, this point, the Rebbe brings the Rebbe Marash. What's missing? Why do we need the Rebbe Marash? We're good. We've explained how you could have Sosum as a property in the air. You could have Makif Harachik. The answer, l'cheira, is that Achre Kol Zeh, it's still in a Makiftika way. Where do I see in a Poil Mamishtika way, in Poshet in my life, the Hashpah of Bais? In other words, let's say like this. How does a person know that he has a home? Because it touches my etzem. Does it influence my kech saglui? When we spoke about rotzen, the idea of makif bichlal, we say it influences the kech saglui. It poshet invigorates me to think, to do, to feel. Over here, l'cheira, no. It's just atzmistige things which could be nizgala in the person, and it could shut down the whole system. Just nicht dein yeshes, nicht dein bittel, not even nishma, just no system, just be hollow yourself out, and then the etzem could be nizgal. The point l'cheira is over here that we want to bring out more than that, that it's take begoli, that it could be expressed and experienced in an eifin of Makif Harachik. That's the word of the Rebbe Marash, Asidah Shmir. There is something about the house, about the home, which does more than just solidify my identity. It protects me. And the dogma for this in Aveda is Teira. Teira is Shmir. As we know, that Teira, even be'idna de lo yasik bei, even when you're not actually learning Teira, the fact that you learn Teira, it's Shemer of the person. It's Magno Matzla. What's the Keich of Shmir? And why does Makif Harachik, what does it mean that it's Shemer? So let's just put it into Pasha Ta'asiyas. When a person doesn't have an identity, he gets lost. When a person has an identity, it's clear who he is, so nothing will faze him, nothing will get in his way, and he will never go krum. A mitzvah that a person does, always by definition, since you're working with Gashmis, so there's always going to be a niks chitzainim. Or certainly in the nefesh adam, when we deal with the concept of mitzvahs, so what does that mean? You're working with the world. You're taking a ershel behemi, making a tefillin. So you're taking worldly inyanim, you're being Isaac in the world. So you could get lost. What does Torah do? A person who learns Torah, and like the Rebbe said, once explained the inyan of Mazen, Levush, and Bayis, he said, what's Bayis? Torah is that he's a Torah yid. Over here, we're not talking about the Havana Vasaga of Torah. We're talking about the Dibur of Torah. In other words, like the fact that I'm totally surrounded by Torah, taken by Torah. Like the Rebbe said, the Lashon, Evert a Torah yid. such a person who Torah is his life, he will never go wrong. Why? Because he has the clarity. This is not Torah. So the koyach of Torah is that shomer the person. The hainu, the pashtus. If I have a clear identity, so I will never get confused. I will never betos allow for something wrong to come out of what I'm doing. It's just not me. The pashtus, we know this. If a person has a home, so you could send him far away. You could be after friend. You send a kid away to yeshiva me'ever layam. You're not worried if he has a strong home. If he strongly identifies with his home, there's nothing to worry about. He has a shmir. So dafke the makif harochik is shemer, and that's something which is felt b'poil. It says even in the kirchsei gluim, they are limited. They have their boundaries. So just like a bayis begashmis is shemer, as we know, the bayis is shemer, sai on the mozen, sai on the levush. You keep them both in the home. Likewise, the kirchsei gluim, and even the makif, the hainu, the naran, and the chayah, are all protected. They are held together by the etzem. If you have a clear, healthy connection with your yechida, so everything's going to be held richtig. That's the shmir. And that's the keich of Torah. Just as Meretchen wegen Bayis, and the keich of the shmir of Torah. So it's interesting, in the Rebbe's language, the Rebbe spoke quite often about the Indian of Bayis, but very often it was poshet, because we were talking about buildings, technically buildings in Lubavitch. The first time was Tafshin Yud, after the Stalkus, the Frierdiker Rebbe left a lot of Chavis, and someone came and paid off the mortgage on the building in 770. So there was a Fabrenger in Shchedish Sivan, and over there the Rebbe spoke about Bayis poshet because they just paid off the mortgage. And then when there was Tafshin Chav Beis, before Shavuos, the Montreal built a building, I think it was the Yeshiva building. So the Rebbe spoke about the Indian of Bayis, and then Shavuos itself, they spoke about Shikon Chabad. But then there was a lot of biur, a lot of Teireh Chadasha, which came out about this Indian of Mazen Levush and Bayis, but the reason was technically because of a Bayis. In Tavshim Mem Zayin, the Rebbe kocht sich Yedua in building Botei Chabad, the power of Botei Chabad. And then in Tavshim Mem Tes, there was about Shnas Abinyan, private homes. And again, in all these times, there was about Bayis. Like the Rebbe spoke then, Chav Cheshvan was about Bayis, about going into Timchit Mim. Yeah, we know there was a hero that Chav Cheshvan, you should walk. What was it? There is that the learning Chassidus of Timchit Mimim or the different Makif in Yonim. Then there is Pashat, the belonging, the identity. That's like walking to, it was in the spirit of Shnas Abinyan. So, just to Taicha Ois, in Tavshin Chav Beis, the Rebbe Taicha Ois Benegei Torah. So there is Limud Torah, there's you could have limud atayra in the eifin of lemaila from any boundaries. You may have achas, you break your schedule more than the kviyasitim. Then there is a person which is a Torah. There's mazen, there's levush, and there's a Torah yid doesn't go out of his hagbolas. This is who he is. As a yid from Torah. It's not. It doesn't have a limitation which is breaking. This is my identity. So it's not even makiv hakarev, it's makiv harach. And a person who's such a yid, that's why it expressed itself in Torah, Pasha, the Shmira of Torah, is Arevim Alai Divrei Sefer, Pasha Bepashtos. What does Torah do? Torah Shabbat, it makes Agbalas, Gzeiris. It says, don't do this, do this. It's the Torah which is keeping a person in check, protecting him from falling into Zaitik Ezach. Now,
but
in Tavshin Mem Zayin, let's just finish this cheshbon, and then So in Tavshin Mem Zayin, the Rebbe said he was speaking about Botei Chabad. It's very interesting. It's kedai to check up the Sikha. I think it's Simchas Torah Tavshin Mem Zayin. The Rebbe spoke about what's the power of a bayis. The power of a bayis is that it influences the shtot. There's a big difference between a shliach which has a Chabad house and doesn't have a Chabad house. Why? A person who comes around, he's coming and he's talking to different people. So I'm communicating with you. Masha'enkin, if there's an address in town, if there's a place, there's pasha a bayis, it's mashpia ba'ifin makifi, you're ba'inarich more powerful. Your influence on the shtot is in a makif way. It's a fact. There is Chabad is in town. That's the koyach of a beis Chabad. Pasha touched up. It's a very muchshis dikadugme of the shmira, of the influence of the way a bayis could function. And in Aveda, in the Skashrus, the Rebbe teichte us, gerade in Tavshin Yud, the Lashon wasn't, it didn't even say the Skashrus. He said, Bachzidim, what's the union of Bayis, is in ganzen Avegegeben zum Rebbe. The Mesirah and the Sinah, the bittul to the Rebbe, that's the Aveda of Bayis. The Rebbe teichte us in two pratim. So the second prat was quite classic, that there is the way you could understand the Rebbe, you could learn the Rebbe's Chassidus, v'cholu. Bayis is that you follow the heroes without understanding, even things which do make sense. But the reason I'm doing it is not because it makes sense, not because it's a good idea. I learn Rambam not because the Rebbe convinced me, because of Achdus Yisrael, or because of Limud Kol HaTorah Kula, or any other good idea. No, it's because it's a hero. So the Tnua is a Tnua of Bayis, in ganzen Avegigem, which is, in our context, the Indian of Nase, not even Nishma. The emes allein leicht. But the first word, the way the Rebbe said it was, which is quite unique, is via chosid geht rein zum Rebbe. You go out with any avon of asaga. So the Rebbe teicht is via kind kommt zum Taten, the way a child comes to his father. What's the word? I belong. What's bias? Bias is that I belong here. Why do you come to the Rebbe? You could have different reasons. But the emes is because this is where I belong. Where am I supposed to be? You're coming home. That is the oimeke inyan of bayis v'sedrik sechois be'achosit. He has the clarity of home. Somebody which is pashut by him, as a dav kumen zum Rebbe, because he's supposed to go home, because 770 is where I belong, that gufa kumuvim will make the biggest shmira. That is the etzem which protects. Just one final thought on this inyan. Mizakt, there's a story that this Maimer of Mozel Levushim Bayis, the Mizmor Shir, there is the way it's printed in the Siddur, and then there's the way it's printed in Likutei Torah. So I believe the way it's in the Siddur is, like you said before, the Alter Rebbe said when he came out of jail, this was the first Maimer noch Peterburg, a Hasbaradika Maimer. But there was also in the later years, I think Samach Zayin or Samach Ches, by the Chalukas Abayis of the Pinchas Reizes. No, Pinchas Reizes was very wealthy. He got Yerushalayim from a shviger, and he built himself a beis chayma, a brick house, not a house of wood, a house of bricks, which was very fancy in those days. And the Alter Rebbe came and said, "This Maimer Bayis Chalukas Abayis." So the story goes that the Alter Rebbe asked the Pinchas Reizes, "What's this business? Are you building yourself as a fancy house?" Like Pinchas Reizes, Chassidish Yidden, wasn't shaykh to such a young. So Pinchas Reizes answered that. If I have there's different nuschos, but if I have such a house, so the meetings of the shtot will have to be in Shklov, will be in my house because it's a chashuva house. And maybe I'll be able to influence the Vada years. So even the Misnagdim are going to have to be bottled to my day. Or other nuschos is basically, if I have such a house, then I'm going to be able to have more influence to help different people. So, yeah, that the whole reason he has a house is in order it should be useful to Fafat Samayonis. But by Imek, L'cheira, what a Pinchas Reizes was answering was the Teichen of the Maimer. He was saying is, what's a house? A house has a keich of influence, but even Makifi, and even of Makif Arachik. Says the way the Rebbe Taisha is, it's a Chestere Mem Zayin, Be'etzem, what Abeis Chabad is, Be'etzem, that's what the Pinchas Reizes was saying. So Chata, Imek in the Maise, that this is Mamish, he answered the Alter Rebbe, the word of the Maimer. Okay. Adkan is Siv Dalet, Rabbi Reichik. Yeah.
One second.
Yeah, you're muted.
Now. Okay, good. The Torah mitzvahs, the stam, why usually Torah is more interesting. We speak about Torah as Markif and
right. Yeah, it's true. And
so what's the dimension here that makes Torah the Markif and a mitzvah the Pnimi over here?
Very good. A good kasha. And the emphasis is the kasha is stronger yet, because if you look in the Maimon and Mizmor Shir, over there, Hitaka says mitzvahs, the way they are Makif HaRachik and Torah is Korev. Says, because that's usually the pashtus and chassidus, that Torah is Mozen, and mitzvahs is Levush, mitzvahs is Makif. So, the answer is that over here we're talking about the unique aspect of Torah, the dibur of Torah. Sometimes it's explained in Chassidus, it's talking about the Yegiyah of Torah, Torah Shabbal Peh, the Gzeiros of Torah. In other words, it's not the Havana of Asaga. The Havana of Asaga of Torah is Mozen. The Makif of Levush, L'cheira, is mitzvahs. Of the makif harochik, that is the limit of Torah the identity, the dibur and divrei Torah. Poshet zogen de verte. That is the way it's explained. Zamaimer Pada B'Shalom Yitas Kislev Tavshin Chai. I think it's a Pada B'Shalom over there. The Rebbe explains it like that. It's good to check it out.
But shouldn't that be, it could be connected to Torah B'Ksav, not Torah B'al Peh, if it's about the dibur?
Oh, so I don't know if we want to get involved in this chiluk. What he means the dibur in Torah is l'chayre. He doesn't mean the words themselves. He means the chaim hem lemoitziim bepeh. He means the zu sein a Torah yit, and that happens more in Torah Shebal Peh. No, that Torah took me over. That makif of Torah is dafka in Torah Shebal Peh. The reason we say b'derech al Torah Shebal Peh is also because of the gedorim and the siyagim. The shmira of a yid is lepoil in Torah Shebal Peh. You could have people who are makabel Torah Shebechsav and they could quote Chomini Psukim in Mishlei or in stories of the Torah, and they're not protected only because of Chazal, where we have so many gedorim and siyagim that keeps us on the right track. So the shmira comes from Torah Shebal Peh. Okay, the Ravayli we still bichlal didn't get yet to the vart. Till now, all we've done is we magdir what is the sasu. So what is the eitzer? What we really want to do is fakert. Say that despite it being sasum in a eifn of makif harachik, and as much as it's influencing me, this whole shmira and all of this, it's sof it's rachik. Yeah, it's there's no way for me to put in words to what bias is. It's a atzmistic gezach. We say that this inyan could be delivered, and af them brengt men the moshel from the Rav Talmud. Now we're going to go back to the story of the Rav Talmud. Now, again, we have to be on track over here. Why are we talking about the moshel and seichel? Why didn't we use taka the moshel of bias? Because again, the whole word over here is we want to say that there's the inyan of sasum in eir. Now, there's no better way of bringing out if we could demonstrate that in seichel itself there's a concept of sasum. So seichel is doch eir. Seichel is experiential. It's gilui. It's something which I'm taking. The im kol zeh, this idea of sasum and seichel. So then we've mamish brought out how it's a ivart in the eir alein. It's the eir via is as eir. You have an idea of sasum. That's the mashal, and even though it's going to be a very difficult mashal to try to figure out the concept of sasum and seichel, but it's worth it because this is what we want to bring out, the way it is in the eir itself. Good. So let's just again revisit the mashal, and we'll try to touch up. You have a Rav, as we said, he's not something which the Talmud could take, not even in the Eifin that Achra Boim Shnin, but deeper is that by the Rav it's totally removed. In other words, that the way the Rav himself is learning, it's in the Eifin of Sasum Mamish. It's a Sasum. Now, I want to be careful over here because the Rebbe's Mechadish, we're going to have to see later, that Be'emes, we have to separate this mashal into two. And the Rebbe learns a deeper inyan, the way the Rebbe is learning the mashal. So I don't want to get involved too much in the details because we're going to have to be magdir it later a bit different. But even Klali, this Rav is an Eifin, like he says, he himself is an Eifin that he's being Eile Be'ile Yacharili. As we say by Pashtus, usually when a Rav prepares a shir, the more he's learning, the better prepared he'll be. He'll find more words because he'll find more words in himself. Yeah, as a felt in Asbara, felt in Avon. So he's going to be able to learn Gruntik, and the more he thinks about it, the reicher, the more reichav he'll have. Mamela will be able to, the shir the next day will be better. Masha'enken over here, this is a different kind of limud. He's going, be'ili acharili, he's hiding. He's going back to a place of helem achar helem that is not understood. Versteht nicht. And that place of sasum, so the more he prepares, the more he learns, the less prepared he becomes. How do you give over such an inyan? Dafka through mashal. And this is the vart of the mashalim of Shleima. And this is why he says that a mashal has the kayach to give over inyan sasum. Why? Because the inyan is a famachte inyan. It's totally famacht. It's totally closed, sealed. And a mashal also by definition, is sealed. Because it's not seichel. A mashal is just a story. Mashal is ma'adav a maisa with a king, a coming, gegangen, getan. This story, since it's sealed, could possess within it a sealed idea. And that's the inyan of a mashal to be able to bring this out. And this is the types that the Eitzer, it's an inyan kamus, chasum, sosum, alle l'shenis, the in kol zeh, I could give it. How? Taka through a chasum dik way, through a closed way. That's the word of the mashal. So, there's two parts over here. What does it mean, bichlal, that there's a seichel sasum? And what does it mean that you could give over? Both of them don't make sense. So, just to make things a little bit easier, let's try to take a pashta example. Kumuven, the way it is be'emes, it's ba'hafshata or ba'hafla, but let's try pashta to use in our world how we see me'ein zeh within our own seichel. If I want to sit down with a person and explain to him the importance of life, in other words, life has a sanctity. First of all, there's nothing like saving somebody's life. Then there is, don't take your own life, because life has an intrinsic value. If I want to explain it to someone, somebody which either he's a murderer or he's lost any cheshik for himself to live, any way I'm going to explain it is never going to be the full idea. I can explain common cheshbainis. Yeah. How and why it's important to live. I could convince somebody not to commit suicide. Did I bring out the importance of life? We all feel that the value of life, the absolute sanctity of life, is so much more than could be said. Now, the absolute clarity and the importance of life. Is this l'mayla mitam v'das? Is this a inyan of emunah? Is it Kabbalah sale? Moving as nicht. It's seichel. It makes sense to me. It's something which resonates with me well. It's pashut. It's like this is the way I understand. So if you understand it, why can't you explain it? Because it's far deeper than to be explained. Now, if you stop me in the street and say, please explain to somebody why it's important for him to live, or why he shouldn't murder, talk about the importance of life. So, if I think about it for a moment, I could come up with an idea. What happens if you give me 2 hours to prepare an idea? If I go home and I start thinking about the idea itself, the more I think about it, the more I understand I can't explain this. Because the more you connect, fakert, you're going back to a far deeper place in your derher. Like, okay, so this is just not explainable. Whatever I'm going to do is not going to do justice to the idea. It's bichlal not the word. Some kind of narisha cheshbon which I could figure out. So sometimes you have the etzem of the idea is far deeper than what could be explained, and it's sosum. If it's sosum, does it mean that I don't have it? No, I do have it. But it's just sosum. It's not a golidic thing. It's not something which I could put into logic language. It's beyond logic. Beyond logic doesn't mean it's beyond seichel. It's the truth. It's my truth. It resonates with me very well. I can't put it in hasbara. Logic is sachakela language. It's a way of explaining the truths which I know to be true. So you sometimes you say in English, I can't explain it, but I know it to be true. I know it. Not I believe it, I know it. But I can't explain it. That's the word. There's something called seichel sosu. Now, if this person insists, he says, too bad, you have to explain it. This person is about to take his life. Please sit down, spend time with him. So one way of doing it is saying, you know what? I'm not going to explain to you the etzem idea. I'm going to give you some kind of diluted, watered down, compromised version of what life is about. I could convince you, if you want to have pleasure, and there is certain nachas with having kids, and I don't know, many svaras and teires, how to talk about the importance, why it's important to live. Come on, I'm going to feel it's ridiculous. I didn't give you the idea. How could I give you the idea itself? There's only one way. Don't explain. Show. What's the taich? Demonstrate it with a story. Talk about somebody who survived the Holocaust and the importance of life. And don't unpack the story. Because as soon as you're going to explain why this person fought for his survival, then you're already going back to the problem of Hasbara. No, the story itself. Nirabachush, that this person will get it. This story will speak much better than the ideas. That's the power of a story. Sit him down and now ask him, could you explain to me why you changed your mind? He'll say no. But this is the story. In other words, there's two avenues how we could communicate. We could communicate seichel through hasbara. Then we could communicate etzem seichel through a totally different avenue. It's a different track. We have another mode of communication. It's a different. It's working on a different sequence, or however it's called. It's like we're connecting from a different place. I know the truth, and you're going to get it. And the way I'm going to put it in, going to deliver it to you, is packaged in a story. What's the Eimeka Inyan? Let's say it a little bit stronger. Why Take could it be put into a story? Because it's the truth. And the truth is not limited to Hasbara. Sometimes the evidence is more of a kli for the truth. The fact, the mitzias, is more of a kli for the truth than the Hasbara. The Hasbara gets in the way. It's emes. If it's emes, so the facts say that it's the truth. See it. Feel it b'mitzias. There is in V'zei Sabrocha in Chilik Tes, the Rebbe brings this idea over there. The Rebbe is clearly talking about the Basilikani Perik Tezayin. In Chilik Tes in Likutei Sichos. Over there, the Rebbe makes a tzushta. I think it's a useful way of bringing out the same idea. It says in Likutei Torah in Vayikra that when a person wants to express himself, usually, a person talks with dibur. So I want to share my ideas, my feelings. What happens if he is not managing to share these feelings properly? Say there is doch that words cannot fully explain what I want to say, or my ideas. So the say there is, you use a tone of voice. It's bein arich, tavne de libe lekasvein, so you can't write it down. But once you use the tone, so there's so much more expression, you hear the ideas much better. Certainly in Hergish. But even in Seichel, Divrei Chachamim benachas nishmoyim, there's a certain, you hear the kasha, you hear the teretz, you hear the eira inyan, so much stronger when you hear the intonation, the tone of voice. However, sometimes even the tone is not a kli. It's so atzmizdik, it's so like the zach alein, I cannot bring it out. Zog the Alter Rebbe, you see b'metzias, people use the hands. Why do people use the hands when they talk? It's obviously because of frustration that they're not managing to deliver everything they want to deliver. There's something they want to communicate. There's a depth in the svara which cannot be brought out. And they can't even be brought out even b'dibur, not even in the tone. The only way they could bring it out is b'maisa. And that's why when they ask a kasha and they pick up the hand like this, sipsgar andish. There's be'en aroich, you could listen to a shir or you could watch a shir. And when you're seeing, it's different. Why? Because you're seeing the facial expressions. You're seeing the hand motions. What does that add? It adds poshet in the eira seichel. There's something over here, the power, the truth of the kasha. That it's a really strong kasha is brought out in the tone of voice, in the tenuas ayadayim, in the tenuas, and that is taka given over to the Talmud. Now, ask the Talmud, could you now explain to me the full depth? No. But there was a kilo neymar, a parallel line of communication, but Yosef, to when he explained to me the idea, he also explained to me the sosum of the idea through the hand motions. The hand motions themselves is like a separate language. It's a secret channel through which he's giving over the sosum, and it comes to me in Eifin sosum. The Bible nothing happened. Could you repeat it? Could you? No, but I got it. I know exactly what he's talking about. It's taka shtake kash. That's what came out through the Tenuas Yadayim. So al derech zeh, we're saying like this. There's an idea, and then there's bring it out in the world of Maisa. What's a Maisa? A story. The fact is azeh. Pukhazi. That brings it out stronger. But Elamai, the Chesaron is, it's going to remain Sasso. No problem. But I got it. So if I mach the Zach, and it came to me, and if I mach the So this is the story of a story. Now, al derech zeh, just a tight choice, yeah. This is the word of a Chassidish Amaisa. You see b'metzias that people grow up and they understood the full depth of what Chassidus is saying. But if they are inculcated, if they by osmosis with Chassidish Amaisis, they get it. They know the word. They could tell you this smacks of Chassidus, this does not smell of Chassidus, this is good, this is not good. They got it. What's the Amaisim mit der Baal Shem Tov gekommen, gegangen, gesagt, explain it to me. I don't know Hagdaris, I don't know how to explain, I don't know what Chassidus is. It's Chassidus Eir, it's Chassidus Chayes, it's Chassidus Kira Elikis, so different in Yom. I don't know how to explain it. But the story is so much more powerful than all the Asbar. Maybe a mushistic way how to say it is from the idea of Latzonis. Yeah, you see the fact is that Bachsidim hat man a greise Koch in Latzonis. Yeah, Remendel used to say, Yiska machshavte bechezik, medaf machen chezik. As man macht chezik, that's the way how you could derhere in. What's a Latzonis? Look, b'metzias, if I have an idea, one way of sharing the idea is explaining it, and you go through the same logical process, based on the same premises and the same cheshbonis, and you come to the same maskana. That's one idea. Then there is, I can't give you the idea. I could make latzanos, and you could get it so much more stronger than my words. It's so much more powerful. The fact is that latzanos achas dechem etechachas. Why? Because you're explaining ideas. The cynic, he's talking the facts. So obviously it's more powerful. If you use Latzonis for Kedusha, yeah, like it says, you make a Latzonis of Yeshus, of Avodah Zarah, of Anachas Ha'elam. So then it's the most powerful tool. Even though everybody in the room, you ask them to explain what they said, what do you mean? The Kasha was again free, Anachas Ha'elam came and said a certain time. So what disappeared? The kashabim came medis. Very good. The fact is you undid everything. So everybody got the message without asbar. Now, it's fascinating is that this Maimer Tovshin Yud, it came out in 4 stages. Yeah, the Hemshech Bas Legani Tovshin Yud. We know for Yud Shvat and Yud Gimel Shvat came out the first 2 Maimerim, and then for Purim came out the 3rd Maimer, and the 4th Maimer, which we're starting now, Sif Tezayin, came out for Beis Nissen. The Fabrenga V'Yakel Pchudi Tovshin Yud, which was when this came out, the Rebbe spoke about the Eitzres which have been given. What are the Eitzres? The Rebbe spoke by Ariches about all the stories that the Friedrich Rebbe shared. For many years, there was stories of Chassidim which were Papashtos, these were Eitzres which were given over Midder. We are so spoiled, we don't realize how what the Pella over here is. Yeah? I mean, Papashtos, we're not talking about so long ago. Chassidim grew up in Lubavitch, and they gelernt Chassidus, haben sich gekocht in den Inyanim, and später geworden größer Ziyurim Chassid. They had no idea of anything. They didn't have Sefer Zecherenis. They didn't have any musig of where the Alter Rebbe comes from, what's the background history. Roiv of the Werter, the vast majority of the Oisius, the Pizgomim, the thing, they didn't even have a Yem Yem. Any Lashonis, this is all in Yonim, like it says so often, given over Rebbe Mipi Rebbe. This was the hidden treasure, which was, in other words, to say, how do you become a Rebbe? Just like how do you become a king? That the father is mirish to you, the Oisruch, Otzru Avesa, from every generation to generation, and now you got this, you got this treasure. And that's what, these are the secrets. It was given in a way that has to remain a secret. It has to remain mine. It's a secret that that it's technically it's too deep to be shared. This is Chassidus Alein. This is our Rebbe. Our Rebbe knows these things. This is what our Rebbe knows. You come in the Frierdiker Rebbe and splurged and spent it on everyone and gave it to Chassidim Nishtam. The Anshe Chayil should take it and use it to their discretion. Take it and farbring with it and touch it up. It's a crazy idea. So the Rebbe said them by the farbringen that the Sipurim, which the Frierdiker Rebbe was Megale, this is what we're talking about in Sifta Zayin. This inyan of the Sipurei Alter. Now, it's important to emphasize the Havana over here. We don't mean in a mashal, sometimes the Hadgash in a mashal is that through the mashal you could get the Nimshal. That would be the Lamata Adin Tachlis. You have a Rav who could bring the idea to a Talmud, and then he gets the idea through the mashal. We mean over here he's not going to afterwards understand the Nimshal. He only got the mashal. But the mashal itself contains the message. There's something powerful in the mashal itself without understanding. He didn't use it as a nimshal to get to the nimshal. He got the mashal. Just like we're saying the Remez Beyadayim or the Chassidish Maaseh or all of these dugmois, it's in the mashal itself. This is where it is. And that's why it's so important, the vart of a story, because it carries the etzem. The etzem has been brought out in a way of Sosum, in a language of Sosum. There is a word that the Alter Rebbe said, if I'm not mistaken, he said it to the Rebbe Zeder, the Baruch Shalom, the oldest son of the Tzemach Tzedek, that when man gehört a Meise, a Teire from the Rebbe, from the Magid, it was Teire Shevichsav. It was Teire Shevalpeh, sorry. When we heard the story, it was Teire Shevichsav. So what's the taich in the word? So often, when the Frierdiker Rebbe chazes it, he explains that it means that in Teire Shebichsav, you have to be medayik by Isias, and Teire Shevalpeh, you have to be medayik in the Teich. In other words, when it comes to a Teire Shevalpeh, obviously, you also have to be medayik in the Lashon, yeah? So when it comes to, when the Alter Rebbe heard the Teire from the Maggid, of course he was medayik in the Lashon. If somebody learns a Gemara and is not medayik in the Lashon, then you don't know how to learn. Come over, you're supposed to read properly. And there's a difference. The reason he used this word and not that word. So the deal of B'lashon Harav is, and the Frierdiker Rebbe is ma'arich in this. He says, obviously, look how the Tzemach Tzedek touches up a word from the Alter Rebbe. The deal of B'lashon Harav, it has to be limitless. However, the reason I'm being medayik in the Lashon Harav is for the message. Once I got the message, soft, the words were a vehicle to deliver the message. So it wasn't about the words. It was about the idea. That's the way you learn Teire Shevalpeh. You want to get the idea. How do you get it? Through richtig uplearn in the Lashon HaMishnah. Therefore, once I got it, I could say in my own words. The only way to get it is through the Lashon Harav. But once I got it, it wasn't about the words. It was about the idea contained in the words. Masha'en in a story. What's a story? The story is the details. It's the fact that it happened. If you're going to say the story, not b'diuk, then it's because not a story. It's a pasha shlusim. It didn't happen. So the diuk in a story has to be like in Teire Shebichsav. The vart is the vart. This was the lashon. The story is that the Alter Rebbe or whichever the story is about said kach v'kach. If you're saying the wrong lashon, it's not true. It was in this date and not that date. It sounds like, okay, it's a man of Kimina. I want to give over the idea. You don't understand what a story is. A story is not an idea. A story is the story. The story is that it happened. And that's what we want to give over. And that's why it's Milantis v'Teire Shebichsav mamish. Now, it's very interesting in the Farbringen, and clearly behemshech to the Maimer, Tovshin Chavov, the Rebbe said a vort azeh. It says in there's two nuschos, the way it's in Madura Kama, Madura Basra, and Shulchan Aruch, it says about saying karbonos in the morning. So in the Madura Basra, he adds the pasuk on a shalom parim sfasein. Said the Rebbe, what's he adding over here? Chura, we know. Like he said in the Madura Kama, Kol Oisik b'Teire Seila ki lo hikrevein. So the Rebbe said Pashut. Kol Oisik b'Teire Seila would mean that you have to learn about Teire Seila, and like this, you have the carbon oil. Is there any value in saying the word saying karbonis? What's that got to do? That's the chiddush that he's saying in Madura Basra on a shalom parim sfaseinu. Pashut saying. There's the words. In other words, the teichen and then there's the words. And in the words is contained the carbon. Like in the mashal, Pashat, in the mashal itself, it's an Eifin Sasum. This has the in. In the Farbrengen also, and over here, you just have to always be careful because the Vart of Misham Paras was saying that the Rebbe said clearly be kasher with the Maimer. There was a Sikha before the Maimer, which the Rebbe didn't clearly say is connected, but it sounds like in the Ruach Advarim has a clear shaykhis, spoke by Arichis about the fact that the Frierdiker Rebbe published Sefer Zechreinis. Now, when he spoke about the Sefer Zechreinis, the biur why, what was the Chiddush in Sefer Zechreinis is the Ikar biur Kamovin. The Teichen Advarim is not the same Havana over here, but there was one Vart over there that the Rebbe did bring out, which Lecheira brings out the Chiddush over here. The Rebbe is describing by Arichis like the Pelle that the Frierdiker Rebbe is writing stories. He said, and people had tainis. He said, Meile, the Inyan in Chassidus, good. The Rebbe's Inyan is writing in Chassidus. People don't understand. So there's easier Mamorim. There's Mamorim in Yiddish. There's Pekeach Nibrim, easy Mamorim in Yiddish Gufe. Good, that could all be understood. But then writing stories, it's something which is not understood even in Seichel de Kedushin. That's how the Rebbe said it. What's this business of stories? Elamai. Because Yid is drowning in the Yam. And in order to save a Yid, he's drowning, the Lashon was, he's drowning in the Yam of Amaratzis. And in order to save a Yid who's drowning, there's no cheshbainis. He'll do anything. If in order to save him, he'll throw him in Chassidus or in Nigla, and if that doesn't work, so a story. And even though he's not interested in story, Pasha, that's what the Rebbe said. It became in style for people to be interested in what people looked like Amol, what their grandfathers used to look like. So Mamela, people are interested in the stories from the shtetl. So good, so he'll come in that tziyur. And hopefully an epis avort will come through, will penetrate, and a Yiddish avort will be able to pick up the Yid through the story. That was the vote. Now, Bepashas, I'm just listening to the Sikha. It's like the Rebbe is saying, Akasha. Was the Kasha Hayitochen as Apiseichel, he should say a story. Mele that he should say a Maimer Chassidus explained in Yiddish or easier Maimer. That makes sense. Chayre, why? It's the same problem. It's on the cheshbon of his time. If it could be Isaac in a deeper Indian, the kasha was that why are you wasting time? If you could be Isaac in Yonim hechere Sachen, why are you Isaac in niedrige Sachen? Hechet al yiroke leil bisre. Instead of vegetables, you have meat. So why is it hepachas elamai? The vart is that he wants to do a fatzamayanis. He wants to bring chassidus. That's the Indian of a Rebbe, to bring chassidus to everyone. Why, when it comes to this, do we say that it's not Inyan and this is Inyan? Why did you stop by stories? So the answer is l'cheire mamish the havana of our Maimer. Being able to explain an Inyan to the lowest Talmud, that shows on the hafla of the Chachma of Shleim. That's a peladik gezach. He could come and explain it to everyone on their level. That's a great zach. So that is the Inyan of a Rebbe. That's Lamata Adin Tachas. Stories is Bechlan Achsidis. It's a Baba Meise. Literally, he heard a story from his Baba, the Baba Rivke, as Azeh is gekommen and gegangen, and this is what happened. That's all that happened. There's no idea over here. So it's nifsak. It's totally separated from what the Inyan of a Rebbe is. The Rebbe Inyan is to Mimgal Achsidis. So the fact that he could be explained it in a Pashata language, no. That would work in Seichel de Kedushin. Hi, Hechel de La'il Yirak Elel Bisre. You should have, in a way, this is more Bisre. A deep Maimer is more quality. In a way, a Maimer that the ideas are explained in a Pasha Teifen is more quality. Good. But then there's not explaining. Story. There's a Garush Satan. Sagt man, no. Dafgedo. That's the Cher. It's Mamish, the Havana of what we're saying over here. Okay. Adkan is this part of the Maimer. So, perhaps we could stop over here. That what's the word of the Eitzer? On the one hand, we've demonstrated how the Eitzer is an Inyan in the air. What is that Inyan in the air? It is be'etzem, a quality, a property of Gilui. Le'idoch it's Sasum. How did we explain that? So we proved it from the Alter Rebbe, that you could have two madregas and neukers are bilvad. We brought it from the Mittler Rebbe that the inyan of stimin, the chostimin, is a prat in the eir. Then we brought it from we used the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash to show that it's makif harachik, which helped us understand that it's an inyan of gili. For haraya, it influences. It does have epsayachas with us. Once we have this word that it's an inyan in the air, then we moved on to the second stage. Now this could be packaged. How could it be delivered in an eifin of a mashal? Because it's sosum. So since it's sosum, a davar has sosum, like we said before, this is a seichel sosum. This idea of something deeper than hasbara, but it is seichel. So it is air. Beferish, we want to say it is an inyan in air. Im kol zeh, I could deliver it. I could put it into words. Which words? Amashal. Something which is also sasam. And the Makabel is going to get it. He's going to receive it. He's going to have it. So derech that we say when it comes to Chassidus. The Eibishter gives the Rebbe. Yeah, the Melech gives the Pekidei Achayil. In order to give to the Anshe Achayil, he gives them Eitzris. What is Chassidus? He has given to us an Eifel Sasum. The pastures. That we understand it. Sehr schwach. So if we're not understanding all the full import of what Chassidus is saying, so what's being delivered to us? So the answer is Puk Chazi. You see that Chassidim have been empowered to go on Mesiras Nefesh through learning these Mamorim. Ask them Pshat in the Maimer, maybe they won't be able to explain. But there's something Sosum, they get the Vort. Now, sometimes you could have, you ask, remember once, Reb Shalom Feldman, they asked him if Reb Mendel understood Chassidus. So he got very upset. He said, Reb Mendel had gut verstanden was Chassidus will. He very well understood Chassidus. Like if you say about a person, do you understand him? I understand what he's saying, I understand what he wants to say. I get him, yes. He very much understood Chassidus. Whether at gedreht with the finger in this level, in Yecheles, in Eir, in Etzemer, in Espashtus Eir, I don't know. Aber et gut verstanden. In other words, there's in a Eifen Sosum, it comes through. And in a Meise, in a word, that's what Chassidus is. And in Chassidus itself, in a Eifen Sosum, we learn about these in Yonim, but it seeps through, the messages come through, and it becomes ours. Because it's Inyan of air, so therefore it could be given to us, and we could have it, and we could take it, and we could learn these Meshalim. Yeah, the Mashal over here, it has to be translated in a broader sense. Anything that we learn is, relatively speaking, to the Emes, is just a Mashal. It's just our language of taking these Inyanim, but they could become ours, and the Eitzah has been given to us. Okay. Do we continue, Rabbi Reichik?
There's a few of us on. We go.
Okay, all right.
But soft goes soft. It's like, so in R there's sasum.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In R there's sasum, and the sasum is a makif that is being piled. Right? That's where we're going back and forth.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, as a contest.
Right. And which is all in terminology, it's all contradictory. Right? Or sasum is contradiction in terms.
100%. Yeah. But we understand theoretically that there is such a thing. And conceptually, we get it.
Okay.
Fine. This whole word, I just want to say, this is be'emes, not yet the word of the Maimer of Toshen Chavav. Why? Because we finished now, we're up to the Rebbe Marash. In the second half of the Maimer, the Rebbe introduces a Torah from the Baal Shem Tov, from the Magid, and from the Rebbe Rashab, and brings a whole new twist to the whole story. And why I'm saying that this is the Iker Wort of the Maimer is because later, during the Farbrengen and following Farbrengens, the Rebbe would constantly go back to the Teres of Baal Shem Tov. In other words, this is what really it's a build-up that everyone wants to get to this new Wort. So Akoponim, we understand we're short for time, but Akoponim, let's just get the Nekuda of what is the Teres of Baal Shem Tov, what's the Teres Magid, what's the Rebbe seeing in the Rebbe Rashab to help on How does it change our Havana of the Eitzir? All right. So let's just map out where we're going to be going, and then we'll do it through the Seder of the Teres. Till now, we understood that a moshel could give over a davar asasim. And there's two chidushim over here. Number one is that even a Talmud who is brainless, I could give him this moshel. Is bichlalish kinkeli, but a story he could understand. So I could reach a very low place. Nachazach is that even a seichel hasasum, which is the chura, cannot be revealed. So we're talking about the highest inyan. Could be nizgale. A higher can't be nizgale, but it could be given over through a moshel. So the highest inyan could be given to the lowest place, and that's the chiddush over here of what we've been learning. However, bepashtus sof la'achrei kol zeh, there's still a maila in Hasbara over a moshel. Why? In Hasbara, I've actually explained the inyan itself. A moshel is only some kind of me'ein de me'ein, like a reflection of the emes. Did I give it over the full etzem in the moshel? No. Papashtus. When I gave you a Hasbara, I've shared with you the idea. So the idea itself resonates with you. She'ein kein over here, I'm only giving you a moshel for the thing. So it's take the sosum is nizgala, and Saya reached it into the lowest place, but it's only in a eifim lechera of a very, very, very pale reflection of the inyan the way it is in the sos. Geht da der Rebbe mechadish sein? That no, the etzem of the seichel sosum is fully delivered in the moshel. The ganze inyan liegt da. And nicht nur das. It's more than even in Hasbara. Hasbara gives over an idea, doesn't fully encapsulate it. And moshel fully takes the whole inyan of the seichel sosum, wie das is, and the ganze Sach liegt in the moshel. There's nothing missing in the moshel. In other words, the Talmud is going to have it exactly like the Rav has it. Whenever we talk about Rav Talmud, there's always going to be a distinction between the ways of the Rav, the ways of the Talmud. Good, I have to grow. It's never going to be like the ways in the Rav. In the Seichel Sasum, it's visis by the Rav, azeitas by the Talmud when he got the Moshe. This we're going to have to prove from the story of the Baal Shem Tov, the Moshe from the Baal Shem Tov, the Torah of the Magid, and in the Maim of Huk Chosen from the Rebbe Rashab, Zeir Gishmak. The language, the way it's going to be in the Rebbe Rashab is all about Tainuk. And that's going to be the way the Rebbe is framing the whole story over here. Sai in the Baal Shem Tov, Sai in the Magid. It's all about the Tainuk, because there's something called the Tainuk HaPoshut, HaBilti Murkiv, and that is this Etzem, and that is something that's going to be able to be brought out in the Moshe. So, we're going to have to do this in a few stages. First of all, just get clear the Teiras of the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid. Then, how are they learned in our Maimer? Then, what's the Yesod of the Rebbe Nishmas Eden? How this is understood. How the whole Nekude is all comes out, the Tainuk HaPoshut is all brought out in the Moshe. And then, the Ikir Chiddush is how the Rebbe is going to take this and show how really the Frierdiker Rebbe said this whole thing in the Sifter Zayin. That's going to be the big Chiddush, how he's going to push it, Zetzit Arayin back into the Moshel of our Rav Talmud that we've been discussing. So, the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov is like this. Now, it's important to understand that there's the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov and there's the way the Rebbe is learning the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. So the Rebbe learns a whole new twist. So let's bekitzer. The word of the Baal Shem Tov, bepashtus, mamish balabatish, if I would learn the Keser Shem Tov, and if you look in the Toldos Yaakov Yosef where the Keser Shem Tov took it, it's a liquid really. So that's the original. Over there, it's very clear that the story goes like this. Father loves his son and he wants his son to have Tainuk. How could the son have Tainuk? If he sends him away, then the son will start longing and have a gishmak in being at home. Memela, the tzimoin is going to be brought out by the son, so that the son will get Tainuk. What's this problem? That the plan went wrong. It turned sour. He sent his son. Instead of the son longing to come back to his father, the son lost interest. He's not interested in coming back with him. So what's the solution now? So the father sends messengers, one Tsar, another Tsar, nobody manages, till there's one Tsar who has a chap, that he's going to speak the language of the son. So he changes his clothes and he changes his language and he gets dressed up like him and he says to the son, I'm like you. Like this, he brings him back to the father, to Aviv HaMelech. This is the pashtus of the mashal. What would be the nimshal? Is that the Eibusha sends a neshama down over Hilamata. Why does he send the neshama down? In order the neshama should have more gaguim and more connect to the Eibusha. And this is a famous lashon, a Torah in the Baal Shem Tov, it comes up a lot. Yeah. This is brought up a lot in Torah of Baal Shem Tov, the inyan of Tainu, which is brought out in the son to look for the father. However, the son lost interest. So what's the solution? So the Eibusha sends Torah. Torah is like is like a sar which dresses himself up in a mashal, in a story. He talks to the son in Shinik Sus Veloshen, which is Sipurei HaTorah. Torah Bichlal says stories. What stories? Stories is bepashtos, experiences which happen in the world. Be'etzem Torah is Shashuim Lefonov. Be'etzem Torah is Pa'im Kol Torah. And Lapoya, what does Torah talk about? But different people. Avimelech said like this, and this one said like that, and talking about the goats and the sheep. So Torah is dressed up in a worldly language, and therefore it could inspire the Yid, and it could help him come back to Aviv HaMelech. So if we'll touch in one word, what's the message over here of the story, of the mashal? So there's two stages. Number one is, what is the son doing over here, Bichlal? Because there was a plan which failed. What's up with the word? That the whole inyan of Torah is just to help the Yid. You would think that the Eibusha has Torah and he needs Yidden people to perform Torah, that's why he made Yidden. Sagt Chassidus Punkt verkehrt. Es ist da a Yid. Why is that Torah? It's poshet as a sar to bring the Yid back to the Eibusha. This is a meritic word for itself. This is a big Evan Pino in Torah Baal Shem Tov, that the Yid is this Kodma to Torah. Okay. The Rebbe takes this whole mashal and Pasha turns on his head. In Pasha ganz an andere Wort. Number one, the Rebbe says the Tainug over here has nothing to do with the son, it's to do with the father. The father is looking for Tainug. And that's why, interestingly, the Rebbe changes the Lashon of Baal Shem Tov. The Rebbe doesn't say that the son forgets the Tanuge Yaviv, because we're not talking about the son's Tainug. He says he forgets Inyane Yaviv. Now, second Chiddush, the Rebbe says, not only he sends him in a Eifen, that he sends him with a plan, that in order that he should have more Tainug. How is this Tainug going to happen? It's not because it went wrong. Lechatchila, this was the plan. He sends into a place where over there in Elam Hazeh, you are going to forget B'derech Memele in Yonei Elokus. You're not going to be able to have a Shaykhs with the Eibishter. And because of that, what's going to bring you back is the mashal of the Aviv sending the Sar, the way is Shinak Sus Laloshin, and this is going to bring him back. So, in other words, the way the Rebbe is learning, but past the story of the mashal, is that the Shinak Sus Laloshin had nothing to do with the Tainuk. The Tainuk was the reason he came down. The Shinak Sus Laloshin was just showing the expression of love to the son. Over here, he's saying, no, there was a plan that the father should have more Tainuk. How am I going to do this? It's the whole plan. Send the son distant, and then bring him back through this. So let's just touch up, Ebazeh, what's the Havana of the mashal over here? That when a father has a son next to him, he has a lot of Tainuk. And the pshat in having Tainuk is, come over, not just technically, that he's next to me, in my building, in my house. We're close. He's Eitzel Aviv. We understand each other, we connect. There's nothing more, no nachas that a father has than having this kind of relationship with the son. Then comes the decision of the father that he wants Yoser time. And the Rebbe is going to teach us that Yoser time, it doesn't just mean more in quantity or even more in quality. It means a totally different kind of time. How is that going to happen? Through the fact that I'm sending my son away and I'm bringing my son back through Shinui Ksus Veloshen, that is going to give me the biggest time. That's the way the Rebbe is learning the mashal. The Shinui Ksus Veloshen is what's going to give me time. Now, Kumuven, Sagresa Kiddush, and why? How is this bringing you more tainuk? What's so geschmack about this game? This lashon ksus v'lashon shina is really it's a mocker for it. It comes from it's a piyut in Parsha Zocher. It's brought in Teisvis from the Yishna Klyne Melech Harod. Yeah, that Amalek got dressed up. It's usually brought for klippe. That klippe dresses up like Amalek. Over here we're saying punkt verkehrt that this is Torah. So it's in a way it adds in the armumius of this Sar that he's nishstam dressing up in foreign clothes and language. He's the very fact that he's dressing up like this goof is a klippe dicke technique. He's borrowing Amalek language to use in order to bring back the sun. Good. So we have what's the Teres of Hashem Tiv. In one word, it is that how is the son gonna? How is the father gonna get more tainuk through this funny system of sending the son and bringing him back through Shinuk Sus V'Lashon? Good. Let's put that aside. Teres Hamagid. Teres Hamagid is the pashtus that there's. It says in we just had it now in the Chitas that. The Moshe Rabbeinu said to Pare that he wants to take the Yidden derech shleishes yomim, to take him out of Mitzrayim. So even though it sounds like a lie, but K'moven Chassidus is masbir that no, he was telling him the truth. The way you makabel Torah is derech shleishes yomim. What's derech shleishes yomim? It says do machshava dibur u'maisa. What says? A Yid, his job is to have tainug and elokus. His inyan is to connect to the Eibishter. Where do you find tainug and the Eibishter in Torah? Now, the way Torah is the way is b'mekayre is pure tainuk. But then it comes into machshava, so to speak. Machshava is already putting it into asis. But as we know, machshava, just like in a person, the nefesh could be fully nizgal in my machshava. So therefore, it's not confined yet to specific limitations. But mela the tainuk is still felt. When it comes into dibur, the tainuk has become compromised. It's become mitzumtzum. It's become condensed to specific language. So memela, it's the way the tainuk finds sich in Torah and dibur, and that's the way the Eibishter gave the Torah and even of dibur. But pastures, the Eibishter came down and he said, "Anei Hashem Elokecha." It came out in even of dibur. Now the Yid, when he gets the Torah, it goes down another notch. It becomes ma'asedik. Because he has to perform the Torah. He has to pasha act. He has to do it b'peil mamish. When he does Torah in an even of Maise, so it's even more mitzumtzum. Now the tainuk is becoming ganzen hidden in the Torah. What's the tafkid of a Yid? The tafkid of a Yid is to take the Maise mitzvah. He's going to take the lulav, shake the lulav, but his job is to connect it back to its mocker. That should be murgish in it the dibur of the Eibishter, and even higher the machshava of the Eibishter, till to the tainug itself, to the original state of the way Torah is. And this is the message of Chassidus, K'moven, that when the Yid is mekayim a mitzvah, he should feel the bligvul in the mitzvah, the emes, the lakus, the tainug, the way it's the Eibishter is dofaran in the kiyama mitzvah. And that is the Torah of the Magid. Frek the Magid, 1 second. How are you going to manage this? L'cheira, Maise is Maise, and dibur is dibur. In other words, you're doing a limited thing. You are doing a ma'aseh. Zok the Magid, this is the koyach of tainuk to be mechaber hafachim. It sounds strange, but tainuk does have the power to do that. Just like you see that when people have tainuk, so you could have a chibur of zachar v'nukva, you could have a chibur of opposites. Whenever there's tainuk makes tevekus. You see b'metzias. People are drawn to something and they could connect and become davok in it because of the koyach of tainuk. So, in other words, what he's saying over here, and this you have to be very careful over here, the way you read the pashtus, the word of the Magid is, he's not saying that I have to do tainuk. What we're saying is just the opposite. Because Torah contains within tainuk, so it contains within it the power to be mechaber mit, to be mechaber the ma'aseh with the dibur, until the machshava, till the tainuk itself. So, in other words, the asiyah is not definitively taking away the tainuk. The asiyah could be part of the tainuk. Now, the Rebbe takes this whole Torah and flips on his head. Er fragt Akasha. Why bechlal do you need to have the Inyan Asiya? Now, if you read it by Pashtus, the question of the Rebbe is a bit interesting. What do you mean? We just said that the Inyan is to bring the Asiya and connect it to the Dibur and the Maisa. So what's the Rebbe's kasha? So the answer is by Pashtus that the Rebbe is asking over here a question out of the box. Who said Torah should come? Why did Torah come into Maisa? You came down and you're fixing it. There should not be an Asiya in Torah. It says, instead of having a tainuk to be mechaber afachim, what's necessary? Don't lechatchila have this inyan of afachim. You just have the tainuk itself, and you won't be able to. You won't have the necessity to pick up the asiyah. That's it. Just to clarify why it's important to understand this properly. If we would have understood that the chibur afachim happens through the asiyah, then the answer would be, the asiyah is making the chibur afachim, it's making tainuk. But that's not what the Maggid said. The Maggid said that through the tainuk comes chibur afachim, not the chibur afachim makes the tainuk. So the tainuk is there anyways. So you're not making any more tainuk through the asiyah. The pashtus. Say bazeh, why do you need to have the asiyah? And for the Rebbe, and over here the Rebbe is mechadish, just like we were mechadish in the Baal Shem Tov, that the vort of tainuk is not the yid's tainuk, not the eibishter's tainuk. Zok the Rebbe also over here, that's the kavanah of the Maggid, that we're talking about the eibishter's tainuk. Was heißt? It's the eibishter is looking for tainuk. And how does this tainuk come? Through Maisa. Through when you mechaber the Maisa back to the dibur. In other words, when a yid does a mitzvah, and in the mitzvah he feels the bligvul of the mitzvah, the way this is the eibishter's mitzvah, then what he's done is he's made for the eibishter a deeper tainuk far more than he had when he had the Torah itself. And that's the reason why the eibishter gave the Torah. So it's similar to the story of the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov explains that the reason why we had this whole system of sending the son away is in order to make a new, different kind of tainuk called Yoser tainuk. Al derech zeh, we're saying also by the Maggid that the reason why Torah talks about Maisa is in order to make a whole new kind of tainuk, which comes dafka through Maisa. Who gets this tainuk? This is the Eibishter's tainuk. Now, Kumuvin, this needs to be explained. What are we gaining from the asiyah? So here comes the words from the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab is discussing over there the idea of Chazer, which we saw earlier. This is this inyan of the way a person who returns to himself, like in Seichel and every year, you could return to a place of etzem. Now, the Rebbe Rashab is mechadish, like we said before, that in the moshul or in the sipur, it's not just the pshat that you're going to be taking and the aim, something of the etzem. You're going to be taking the ganzen in. That's the Rebbe's lashon. You take the whole thing. Why? So the biur, the way the Rebbe Rashab explains, the emes is that the Rebbe didn't say it so much in the Maimer, but the Rebbe was meramis to it in the Maimer. The Rebbe was meramis when in the end of Teres Baal Shem Tov he said, the inyan fun tainuk pashut kishfishi yivur lekamon, but the Rebbe didn't explain it in the Maimer. Also in the Rebbe's notes, there is also the inyan of Seichel Na'alim called Rayin in tainuk bli tnuah. So basically the way it's in the Hanoch is it's hashlomis, the way it's understood what the Rebbe meant. But you have to be honest, the Rebbe didn't say this biur by Harchava in the Maimer itself. Akopon, what's the biur? So let's stop for a moment and explore tainuk for just a minute, and then we'll come back to this idea of what we're trying to say over here is to connect to the etzem is dafka through this inyan of Maisa. Why Maisa does this? Bichlal, tainuk, as we know, is the person himself. There is the faculties of the person, seichel is midas. Then there is the tainuk. Tainug is the way I could experience myself in every one of these tchums, or in the chushim. So you could have Tainug in Re'iyah, in Shmiya, in Tam. You could have Tainug in Seichel, in Midas. There's different efanim in how Tainug is brought out. Now, what is Tainug? Tainug kemuven means me. Tainug is nicht the pshat that I'm connecting to something outside of me. Ava is that the beloved becomes important. I've invited someone else in my life. Seichel is I understood something objectively true and I became convinced. And that thing has now possesses space in my mind. Tainug is the opposite. Tainug is that there's something over here which triggered me to feel myself. When a person experiences Tainug, he withdraws. He goes back into himself. You see, when a person is enjoying a niggin, a svara, any food, he closes his eyes. He withdraws back into himself. That's the tnuah of Tainug. Therefore, Tainug could be in anything. The reason why Tainug is not, there is no kli mesuyim in the nefesh. There's no aver for Tainug. Tainug isn't limited to be experienced in one way. Is because Tainug is me. Tainug is that there are different triggers which could touch a person for him to experience his Tainug, for him to experience himself. So Tainug is really all about me, not about specific things. Therefore, it could come through so many different languages. Just to sharpen this nakuda. When sugar touches my tongue, I experience Tainug. So sweetness is something which is a nafshistic experience. Come over, the sugar doesn't have the experience of sweet. This geschmack. Sugar is just sugar, whatever it is. It just has the tchuna that it touches my taste buds. What happens is there's a certain rush of feeling nefesh. And al derech zeh is a Tainug of a niggin. So all that's doing is it's triggering within me feeling myself. And that is pleasure. However, obviously, we could infer from this that it's not the ultimate pleasure. If Tainug is about me feeling myself, so if it's going to have to come through a certain frame, it's going to be limited. Just like we understand that there's different kinds of Tainug. There's a Tainug in Seichel, there's a Tainug in Maisa, there's a Tainug in Hama, Achila, or different things. And every one of them is only a specific kind of Tainug, and it's limited to a certain way how we're being misanik. So the concept of Tainug itself is me. There has to be al koponim conceptually, we understand there's something called Tainug, which is not coming from a specific place. And that would be the Tainug, which is not murkiv. It doesn't have any ingredients. It's the Tainug pashut. It's the Tainug of me feeling myself, which theoretically, sometimes it's explained that that's the idea of menucha. Like when a person does work and then he comes back to himself. That is like a Tainug, like a Shabbos dige Tainug, where it's not from something, it's just me. However, sof, that's also called, even though it's Tainug ability murkiv, it's not coming from a specific ingredient, it's just me resting, me coming back to myself. It's murgish. It's experienced. Why? Because it's feeding off the fact that I was working and now I'm resting. True Tainug is Tainug which is not even murgish. It's be'etzem just me with myself. Now, Kumuvin, this is it's a conceptual Tainug. It's not something which could be experienced because that's exactly what we're saying. It's not an experiential Tainug. But in Havana, conceptually, we understand that this is the pure Tainug. This is me. So, in theory, this would be like this idea that you have a person who feels sizmir gut. This place of me being just geschmack. It's me. Now, because of this, we understand, derech agav, why it's mechaber hafachim. What's the idea of chibur hafachim? Chibur hafachim means that, just 1 second. Chibur hafachim means that two things which have nothing to do with each other could connect. The reason why Tainug has this kayach is because Tainug is pshitas. Tainug is just me. So Mamela, it It breaks down all boundaries. There's no limitations. Mamela, everything could connect. Or let's say it a little bit better. Tainug is the idea of dveikus. Dveikus is that connecting to nefesh. So Mamela could come from the lowest place if there is tainug in dibur. So the asiyah could also come. Because there could also be tainug in the asiyah. On every level, I could also always come and reconnect, and it could be murgish that. Now, here comes the vort that we want to bring out. This inyan is nizgala dafka through a mashal. This is the pella over here. Why? So over here, let's just first of all stop and recap, and then we'll dig a little deeper in the whole story of what's going on in our mind. What did we just do? We just brought a Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, a Torah of the Maggid. Both of them, the way the Rebbe's magdir it is dafka a dressing up in foreign clothes through Sipurei HaTorah. Brengt sich heraus the Yosef Tainig of the Eibishter. Likewise in the Maggid, he says even more, not just Sipurei HaTorah, but actual Maaseh HaMitzvah. That's what's going to bring the Eibishter Tainug. And over here we're saying, what is Tainug? True Tainug is, what's the Yosef Tainug? Is this Tainug, Habilti Murgish, Habilti Murkiv, and Habilti Murgish, this Atzmistige Tainug, what he calls the Tainug, the Rebbe calls it the Bli Tainug, the Tainug Bli Tainug. It's the Seichal Nelem Mekalerai and going back to the Etzem itself. So, how does this work? Why Take should a Sipur or a Maise bring out this Atzmistige Tainug? So let's first understand this in Havana, and then we'll try and see where we see this b'muchash. In Havana, the word is b'pashtus hazeh. Why does a moshel bring out the truth? Because we're saying that the truth isn't limited to logic. The reason something is true is not because it makes sense. It's just the opposite. Because it makes sense, that's why because it's true, that's why it makes sense. Something which is true is going to make sense. But the sense of it is not what it is. It's true. Now, if it's really true, then it shouldn't have any limitations, and it should be able to be accessed from every direction. Like the famous Lashon HaRalbag, ha'emes is mas mikol tzad. In Pashat Verter. If it's true, you could bring it out through Metzias, through Pashta evidence. Bring it out from the... Why not? In other words, if it's true, there shouldn't be any specific tziyur. I shouldn't have to be in the world of Seichel to access this truth. The world of Meister should also be able to say it. And this is dafka brought out in a moshel. If I bring out something in the language of a moshel, not I'm using a moshel in order as a vehicle to bring out an idea. It's the truth. So therefore, it's also factually true. Look at the facts. So what does that bring out? That brings out that it's be'etzem true. If it's just an idea, so an idea is going to be limited to the world of ideas. If it's true, then it's also going to be able to be brought out pashat in the fact. And the pashtus is as it. And everybody understands that if I'm going to bring evidence against your svara, so it's brought out that it's a nice svara, but it's not true. So it's just the fact brings out the truth in a way more than the he going. Why? Because the fact is the truth. That's the pashtus. It doesn't explain it. So what? We're not talking about explaining. We're talking about the truth. What brings out the emes? Dafka when it comes out in a ma'aseh b'peh. So let's go to the Mashal Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov wanted to bring out this idea that a Yid is be'etzem connected to the Eibishter v'yaris. Now he loves his son and he's really experiencing this unique relationship with his son, that they understand each other and they're connected and it's reich, it's very geschmack. Zog the Baal Shem Tov, it's not bringing out that the son is be'etzem v'yar is the way he is, as I can have pleasure in it. Because the only reason we're connecting is because he's by me. He has my clothes, he has my language, that's why we connect. Said the Baal Shem Tov, I'm going to send him into a foreign place with a shinik sus veloshin, and it's going to remain that way. Now, what's the chachma of the sar? The sar which comes there, he comes and he's dressed in different clothes. What's the sar saying? What's his message? His message is very simple. He's telling the son, you made a mistake. You're saying that you're not interested in the father because you're convinced that the father has certain clothes and certain language. And you're not interested in that experience. You have your own clothes and your own language. And you're saying, why should I leave who I am, the way my comfort, to become like my father? I'm not interested in leaving my ksus veloshin to be my father's ksus veloshin. Zogt the shliach, the sar, I have your ksus veloshin. The imkol zam sar of the melech. What does that prove to you? That you've misunderstood the melech. You think the father has specific ksus veloshin. No, he doesn't. I have the same ksus veloshin as you, and I'm still connected. Is a raya that you, vidu bist, in your style, could also be connected. That's what he's saying over here. In other words, what does Torah say? You would think that in order to be have a shaykhs to the Eibishter, you have to become very spiritual, very ruchni. Torah comes and says, no, I'm going to tell you a story. A story of Klyne is gekommen, gegangen, and getan. This is so he was like, oh, so stories I don't mind hearing. Stories is my world. They say, no, but you should know that this is the Eibishter. What does that tell me? That you, as you are in Elam Asiyah, a world of stories, you could also be connected to the Eibishter. You could be connected to the Eibishter naturally. That is the message of the Shinik Sus Veloshin. It's not pshat is that it's a trick. You have to understand the Moshe of Hashem to properly. It's not like it's a trick. He Shinik Sus Veloshin and said, now suddenly, boo, I'm really a sar. Okay, so Ebeze is nisht. Shinik Sus Veloshin, and it remains that way. And the son also remains with his Sus Veloshin. Elamai, you could come with your Sus Veloshin. That is the message of the sar, that the father is not limited to a specific style. You misunderstood him. In other words, A'atzmi is not limited to be taken in a certain way. There's no sprach for Atzmi. He is. If he is, you can't be magdir him in a certain way. If I am takazeh, it could be brought out also in Elam HaMaaseh. Kumtois, that dafke the Elam HaMaaseh brings out the etzem. If I want to bring out the tainug HaPoshut, the Yosef tainug of the father, dafke through the Shinik Sus Veloshin. That's what brings out that that I am taka limitless. What's tainug? Is this tainug abilti murgish, the limitlessness, the etzem of me. I'm not confined to any style, not to tainug from tam or seichel or anything, not even tainug in the way it's murgish. The way tainug abilti murgish, meaning I am not limited at all. This not at all being limited is brought out in the world of Maaseh. If I could reach the world of Maaseh, if world of Maaseh could relate to me, then we're in business. That means that's taket. That's the shinik sus veloshin that the Torah is saying. This Torah is saying that the Eibishter doesn't have specific styles, specific garments. Al derech zeh zok the Magid. This is the way the Rabbi is learning pshat in the Magid. Torah came into the world of Maaseh. Torah says, not pshat, that what is tainug? Tainug is a tainug ruchni. Tainug of machshove, kaponim, at least tainug of dibur. The Maaseh has to be get also through the keich achibur, the dveikus of tainug to be mechaber afachim, become dibur diku, become machshove. No, you as a Maaseh, this is the ultimate tainug. You as you are in the world of the nivra. That's the Torah of the Magid. Stay Maaseh, and that's what you should do. And the Rebbe says a new word in the Magid, which the Magid doesn't say, but the Rebbe says, Dafke, the Maaseh, the son, the Yid, is the one which is giving this inyan. It says, where does Maaseh come from? The Pashtus, you would say that the Maaseh is the way Torah has come to the Yid. The Rebbe learns it a bit different. Maaseh is what the Yid brings to the table. It doesn't say it in the Torah. The Torah only says Dibur. What does the Yid do? He himself he contributes a new idea. The Yid brings the Maaseh. Because in Torah it doesn't say Maaseh. The Torah just says Dibur. As much as Torah is talking about Maaseh, he's talking. He's just talking. Wo is done Maaseh? Maisa is the Yid is contributing something new which didn't exist. He brings it to the table, and this is what brings out the Tainuk Atzmi of the Eibishter, because it brings out the true limitedness of the Eibishter that it could also be in the world of Maisa as Maisa, in the Sprach of Maisa, and that's Tainuk. So it's the Pashas Rebbe turned over. It's punkt verkehrt of the way we would understand the Pashas of the Maggid. Pashas of the Maggid is that a Yid has to become was mer mufshit from Welt and feel a hechere Tainug of Dibur Machshave till Tainug Pashut. The Rebbe says punkt verkehrt. The Tainug of Maise is the Maise is what brings out the Tainug Atzmi, the Yoser Tainug in the Lashon of Hashem. Now, the biggest chiddush is that this Inyan Gufe, sagt der Rebbe, steht in Perik Tezayin. So till now, what we've done is to the Teres of Hashem, to the Maggid and the Rebbe Rashab, we've brought out a new idea that there's this Inyan of Yeser Tainuk, which, if we're talking in the Eitzer, let's just first see in the Eitzer, then we'll see in the Fidik Rebbe. So we're saying a whole new word. Till now, we understood that what's the pshat, the Eitzer? The Eitzer is this Inyan of Sasum, which is in the air. And this Inyan of Sasum, which is in the air, is brought out in the Mashal. Now, on the Sipur. Now we're saying more than that we're talking over here about a Tainuk Atzmi, a Atzmi thing, which is Legamre Sosum Be'etzem. Yeah, we've added new depth to the Havana of the Sosum. But the Ikar Achidish is, and this Inyan is now brought out by the Son in Ganzen. The Moshel Taka has it. You Taka have the Tainuk Atzmi. The whole Tainuk Atzmi is brought out when you have this in.
So he says it's not Sasum anymore.
It is Sasum. L'poil it's Maisa. We're not saying it's not Sasum. It's this Sasum Dikeinian of Bepashtus. Look at the Son. It's very, very important to bring out. He is B'shinik Sus Veloshin. He is B'feish B'shinik Sus Veloshin. The Father has a Meridik Tainuk in the Son by seeing him in an oifen of a foreign language. So it is still Beferish going to be a Sasum Dikazach. But that's the it. You're mute.
Finish a statement. It's a Sasum Dike thing, but at the end of the mimer, it's again Nachman the word is
it's Sasum, but it's coming a oifen of Maisen, a oifen of a Sipur. I now have something which is Sasum. But it's in the language of the Son. It's not pshat is that now it came out Begoli. So we're going to see how he touches it now in the Friedrich Rebbe.
What's the before and what's the after? Again.
Now the Eibishter has Tainuk. What's brought out? So there's two nukudas over here. There's the Eibishter's Tainuk, and the Eibishter's Tainuk is brought out in Maise. So the Eibishter's Tainuk is this mufladike Tainuk Atzmi. And the Maise possesses this. It's a licht in the Welt von Maise.
I said that the shift in this again. But what was the shift? What was before? Before there was an in of Sasum.
So before there was Inyan of Sasum, and the pastures it just came out in a Sasum dika way. We only had the me'ain of it in the Sipur. Now we're saying fakert. The Sipur is what brings out the full vart of Tainuk. What is Tainuk? That Etzem doesn't have any Gedarim. And that's what Sipur has. So it's not a me'ain. It's not like a reflection of it. It's not like, I managed to smuggle in through this avenue of communication, through Sipurim and Mishalim. No, the Sipur, this is the Vart. There is no other Vart. The Vart of the world of Maisa. You taka have this Vart away. Kamovn in the Hira, what we're saying, when again, what the soldiers are being given to win the battle is as Chassidus is Sasu. But don't think that when you learn Chassidus, you're only learning like, okay, so what we've been allowed to know, but Be'emes says, no, du hast the word. This is the Etzem. Whatever is going to be in Teras Mashiach, then we're going to be able to appreciate what it says in Chassidus. It's going to be Begoli. But now, Vermachte Heit, liegt da die ganze Sache.
So if I understand, so it's not pshat. Like in the beginning of the Maimer, we're speaking that there's a sasum, but because it's makif, you have to say that it has an effect on you. right?
Mhm.
The makif has an effect. It's upshot from von there. It has there's an effect of the sasum on the
Yeah.
person. Here we're saying almost like hasta etzem inyan hostel.
Oh, so. Oh no. One second. I think you skipped a stage. We're gonna come back to this union of makif. It's like a very negate to the pshat. But let's just be masakim where we're holding now. L'chatchila, what we said is that it's a sasum in the air. Dahainu, that it's makif harochik, meaning it's something which has its sasum. Le'idoch, it's in air. It's an even makif harochik. Then we say this Indian could be given to you through a mashal. Now, what we're saying is we went deeper. It's not just an Eifin of Makiv Arachik. It's higher than Makiv Arachik. It's something which is Sosum Be'etzem, like he's saying, it's the Etzem HaNefesh. This is Tainug Atzmi. It's higher than the Makiv Arachik. It's not talking anymore about this bias. And this is what's being given. So, say we picked up what's being given, it's something much higher. It's, and Le'idoch, the ganze Zach liegt up. Now, this word that we moved up a stage, we're talking about the way it is in the nefesh itself, not even an even of bias, of Makiv Arochik. It's the etzem itself, Zok the Rebbe. This is what it says in the Maim of the Frierdiker Rebbe. When it went in the Maim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the mashal had two stages. The first stage of the mashal was that there's a Rav, which is learning with the Talmud, and the Talmud understands an eifin of Makiv HaKorev, then an eifin of Makiv HaRochik. That was the first stage. Then moved on to go into the Rav himself, that the way is Mis'alim Ba'atzmusay in the Rav, the way is Be'ili Acherili, the way he becomes, it's in ganzen Afamachta Inyan by sich allein. So we understood the Bepashters, and that's the way it is by the Frierdiker Rebbe. That's one mashal. The Rebbe is learning, no, it's two mashalim. The Inyan of Makiv HaRochik, everything that we learned, is Bichlal, nothing to do with our story. That's the way it's Lamata Adin Tachlis, that's the way it's the Gili in even of his pashtus. The Iker, what we want to discuss over here is how it's in the Rav himself. In other words, everything that we learned till now about bias, about Makif HaRochik, and this is the Eitzer which is being given, is Bichlal not the full Eitzer. We're talking about something which is a atzmistic thing, be'etzem, tahainu, that it's sosum take be'etzem. It's really be'etzem in nefesh. It's tainig habilti morgish. It's tainig atzmi. And that is what we're going to be delivering to the Yid to go fight in the battle, to win the war, to bring Mashiach.
Just a quick question. So on the Marshal of Baal Shem Tov, you saw the Maisa with a guy with the kid that was acting like a chicken and he reingekrachen under the tish. Basically the Maisa, the Marshal.
Yeah.
Is that the same Marshal? Is that different? I mean,
I don't know. I think that mashal is Mekubal in Breslev, if I'm not mistaken.
But it almost sounds similar.
It sounds very similar. It sounds like a very similar thing. I'm not sure what's the. All of these mashalim, which is Mekubal in Chassidut, have good uplearning. It's every word is mamish neges. Is the Teresh. So I don't know exactly the.
Okay.
Melantus b'shitchias like just like some kind of technique, like some kind of is a chap. But yeah, l'chayre it's selecting them they're eivik. I mean, I'm not sure. That was a good line. Okay.
We are going to have to finish here sometime. Okay.
Yes. So now yeah, so we're wrapping up over here. So what's the word? I just want to finish off that l'chayre there's something lacking over here in the biur, and it seems like by the Fabreng and the Rebbe was mashlamit. What was what was lacking? What was missing in the biur, and what was the Rebbe mashlim? L'chayre, we started off with the yesod that it's the sosum the way it's in the air, and that's why we went through this whole biur of Makiv HaRochik to explain that it's a erdik ezach. It does have a shaykhis to me. Elamai, it's sosum. So that could be given through a mashal. Now, l'churu, we moved up a notch. And we said, no, it's not bias. The Eitzer itself is not Makif HaRochik. What the Rebbe calls in the Maimer, Amitis Makif HaRochik. It's the true Makiv Arochik, which is this idea of Tainuk Atzmi. If so, then we lost all the gains. If so, it's not Inyan in the air. The whole word of our Maimer is that it's an Inyan in the air, and that's why it's begeder that you could give it, and that's why you could receive it. Inyan Pnimi. Das doch even the ganze Mahalach. So what's the Havan? Is in the Sicha after the Maimer, the Rebbe said a whole biur, be'emes was behemshach the Inyan of Kuntras and Yanosh Oteres Achsidus, about Daladams. And it seems like over there, the Rebbe is mashlim how it does have a yachas. Even though it's atzmi, it does have a yachas. Let's just touch it in one word. It's a ganze Inyan in Nigla, it's a geschmack Inyan, it's Perek Chof in Kuntras and Yana, but let's just bekitzer. Dalad Amish Al Adam Kainis. What Dalad Amish Al Adam Kainis? So the din is that if I'm in the street, but see there's a rabbi man, there's a chayfetz over there, so I'm kainet. But the Rebbe argeteicht, Dalad Amis, this is Gilei Yechide. And because of Gilei Yechide, so therefore you kainet. What is the expression of the kainet? Is dafka through a chayfetz, dafka through Maisa B'Peil. So in Aveda, that means that Chassidus is Yechide Shebenefesh. That's the Nukud of Kuntras and Yana. How is Yechide taken? Through the Bechein, through Maisa B'Peil. And that's why Bechsidim, the Iker was, the test is the Maisa B'Peil. If it doesn't come out in Afatz Mayanos Chutza, in Maisa B'Peil Mamish, then it's not Chassidus. What's the Havan? So, we went through all these stages that this Muslim Lavush bias, Kilo bias is the highest thing, it's the identity. But sof, we're being magdir my identity to a specific location. So it's me, the way I identify with something. Nalad Amis just means me. As I say today in English, my space. It's my space. It's me. It doesn't make a difference where you put me, it's me. That is the Etzema Adam Mamish. So Makif HaRochik, the way we understood in Bayis, is talking about the Etzem Mamish. The Etzem Mamish, this is Dalad Amis. Humtois, that even Dalad Amis, even Etzem Mamish, this Inyan of Tainuk, Atzmi, also has a hashpah in a even of Dalad Amis. When I walk down the street, the Dalad Amis is where I am murgish. It's my space. Well, how is it expressed? That is delivered through the Inyan of a Bechein. So that's the Inyan of the Maisa B'Peil. So Bekitzer, the Rebbe's mashlim over here is, if we're going to come out with the Nakuda of the Maimer, the vort is as the Etzem Mamish is brought out in the even of Dalad Amis. It's brought out in the even of Makiv HaRochik, Amitis Makiv HaRochik. Hestos, it is air. It's sauce in the way it's in air. V'harai, it's in air. It's felt. My presence is felt. Elamai, I don't have it. In what way is it? How do I take it? I could take it through a bechein, through in a Maisa B'Peil. In the din of Dalad Amis is in the chayfetz. In the chayfetz L'Peil was gefindt sich in Welt. And this Inyan, if you look in the Fabrengen, the Rabbi was very marchiv in this, and this is the word of the Gili of Chassidus, and the way the Gili of Chassidus is Tafkin expressed in Maisa B'Peil. And then in the next Fabrengen in Beshalach, the Rabbi spoke Bariches that this is the Inyan of Beshalach, Tafkin being sent weit, Shiluch, to the Merochek, which is sending far, and that's where the Yosef Tainug is brought out, and this is it was a bissel mashmos over there. The Rabbi said brought a maimer which just came down from Russia. So he said that's the tainuk, which is something which came in a meitzar, a maimer which came in a meitzar. It sounds like that was the word. Just to finish off with one inyan is that in the end of the Fabrengen of Yud Shvat itself, Toshen Chavov, mamish at the end, the Rebbe says that this inyan is the din of Talmud Shagala Magle Rabbi. Now, wherever a Talmud goes, even if he has to go to Golus, because in Ta'ari Miklot, so the din is that you send also Rabbi Ime. Why do we send Rabbi Ime? Because he's Ba'atzim connected. So Rabbi said, this is the word of Shiniksus V'Lashon, through Yosef Tainuk, that even where the Talmud is, that's where the Rabbi is also always going to be with him. And this is Rabbi Taishop Klor, Binyan Ais Kashrus.
Just a klotz kasha.
Yeah.
If the Eitzer is for us to do the Avodah,
Mm-hmm.
and we're saying that the Eitzer is this according to this, would be this Tainug. That's what coming out of the Maimer. And this Tainug is found in Maisa, but the Eitz has to be there for us to do the Avodah. You're saying we're coming. What comes first?
In the mice is in the sipur. Let's take an example of a sipur. So in Dafka, in the lowest Indian, the fact that Chassidus has come to us in a eifon of a sipur that's been given to us, and that we could take it, yeah, that itself is empowering. That's what it means. Mice means the language of mice. I could take it and I could understand it and I could digest it. Bepashtus, it could become part of my life. That's the lashon of the Rebbe at the end of the Maimer. That's it. In Yoni Shalom Kabul, it becomes my.
But the Maggid's point is there Shlesh Yisomim. It's about Maisa. No.
But the Rebbe is connecting it to the words of Sipur. That brings out the time. That brings out the time. Yeah. So, in other words, let's maybe just add one word of Hasbara to what you're saying. If you want to take a get Chassidus, it has to be a bechein. In other words, the hachlot of the fabrengen is not the result of the fabrengen. That is when you get the fabrengen. So the bechein is anachanami. The only way to learn Chassidus properly is mit bechein, and that's when you get it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
The
kids.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. Be well.
So Geschmack, so appreciated every minute of it.
Oh, I go to Rabbi Blooming. I didn't see you before. You've been with us the whole time?
With you the whole time, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Rabbi Klyne, when we were in camp together in England, was Eli Schlanger there at the time?
I don't remember the name, but it makes sense. You were my head counselor for 3 years. So
Eli Schlanger must have been there that year.
Interesting. I don't remember. But he was a counselor?
Tremendous the Geschmack every minute of it. And you still at the beginning. No?
Anyway, yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, it went over time. We lost a little bit track of time over.
The more the better.
Good. Okay, gewaldig. All right.
Yes,
Take care.